This is the Hunt Quietly podcast. I'm Matt Ranella.
Nephi, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Can you hear anything besides me okay?
I can hear my
That's a pretty
in-laws.
convoluted...
I can hear my in-laws in the background.
Okay.
How's that?
I can't hear your in-laws.
Oh, that's good. That's what I want to know.
Yeah. And that was
good, man.
That was a convoluted way of asking if you could hear any background noise on my end.
No, sounds good.
I'm sitting outside at my mom's house, at my childhood home.
Awesome.
My mom went into assisted living about 6 weeks ago, so I'm home helping with the adjustment a little bit and helping tie up some loose ends. This is probably the last week I'm almost positive this is the last week I'll ever spend in this house, which is kind of sad.
That's good. This is going to get real nostalgic now.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a trip down memory lane. Yesterday, one of the items, there were very few items that my brothers and I wanted out of the house, but there was one item that we all three wanted, but it got relegated to my brother Dan through...
What was that?
It's our childhood deep fryer.
Yeah. You know what's hilarious? I was going to guess that that's what it was. Having
really?
read books. Yep. I was dead serious. Gonna be like, was it the fryer? Because just from reading.
That's crazy.
I literally was going to ask that. Because that's the thing. I mean, I don't know you guys. And this is it's the curse, right? The curse of being in the public eye is that everybody knows all this stuff about you. And it's as if they know you, but they don't know you, you know?
Yeah, it's called a parasocial relationship.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, I've gotten a small taste of it, and it's really very interesting. You know,
you've been on the receiving end of it.
Yeah, you know, when you have somebody come up to you, you're getting it too. I know, right?
Very little. What more? Because of Steve being my brother, than because of my own thing.
Yep.
You know,
somebody's seen you and they're like, "Hey, how's your van and your llamas?" Right?
Right. Yeah.
And for me, it's just we'll have somebody come up and Your Mountain actually gets quite a few listeners. So that podcast, you know, our reach, I don't believe the algorithms that say it's huge, but it's at least 5, the minimum size of it. We're getting 5,000 per episode. And the listener, the listenership is all professionals too. It's, I mean, maybe not 100%, but it's people, you know, we'll get people coming up to me at a legislative session. Dave will have, you know, it's congressional staffers, legislators, wardens, you know, game and fish agency people, BLM, you know, guy from the BLM and called me from, you know, to ask if we'd speak at their convention. We went out to Pennsylvania, to speak at their game and fish convention a year ago, talking about how to interact with the public and legislators. And so we had just had their director on last week talking about, you know, finally getting Sunday hunting in Pennsylvania. And it was just kind of fun for us because we talked with them about how, you know, how do you positively interact with people? And that was because of the podcast. And, you know, so then they're all coming up and they're like, oh yeah, you know, how's this thing and that thing? And you're like, you know, there's just this assumption that people they think they know who you are and they really don't. And, you know, and maybe we'll talk about it a little on the podcast, but I'm sure it's one of the things that plays into it's got to be a very strange relationship with you, right? Because your brother, he's your brother.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Steve Ranella, the TV guy. He's just your brother.
Well,
right?
Yeah, it's. I haven't talked to the guy in 3 years.
Yeah, but then to all these other people,
and he's just yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's just. It's different, right? They're like, oh man, and there's this, you know, he's a totem. to them.
Yeah. It annoys me because it's just so fake. But like
well,
what
I see that.
like the part of like what they're so impressed with is it's not all fake. He's obviously well spoken and he can obviously string sentences together and has an eye for media,
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's why people think they
just don't
like
have
them.
they don't get to see the imperfections of people, right?
Yeah.
They just see they see all the good stuff, and in a way, I would say, we're talking about this a little bit, but man, in a way, that's okay.
So does he talk about the deep fryer?
In his book, his first, the first book I ever read that he wrote was his book, the
Scavenger's Guide to Haute Cuisine?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the book where I'm like, that's the book I read where I was like, I like this guy. Because that to me, that spoke to me. And of course, he lived in Thermopolis for a while. Right?
So, yeah. Are you from Wyoming originally?
I'm not originally from Wyoming. I'm from, born in Washington State, in Seattle.
Okay.
And then I moved to, this is then I moved to Utah when I was 6. Lived in Utah till I was in a senior in high school. Senior year, I go from Provo, Utah, to Arco, Idaho. You know Arco? You know where Mackey is? Chalice.
My Idaho geography is obviously not good.
It's the Sawtooth, so it's just you go it's on the opposite side of Idaho of there's this nuclear desert, right, with all this nuclear testing and everything in it, like big lava flows and stuff that nothing's in for 90 miles. Then you hit Arco, which was the first city in the world lit by atomic energy. And then up above Arco, as you get into the Lost River Range, and it's just these amazing
Mm.
mountains that still somewhat undiscovered, but nothing's undiscovered anymore, So you had really just a really cool, agricultural community and, opportunities. That's probably that's the first time I my hunting background is sort of inherited, sort of borrowed, it's from friends, but it's also it's uncles, it's grandfathers, just not my dad. And so you kind of get that, Arco is just this, special place in the middle of nowhere where you can get these, really cool experiences on, horseback up in the, just gnarly mountains. And so anyway, I went there. I was there my senior year, then went to Rick's College, and now it's called BYU Idaho.
Oh,
in Rexburg, Idaho, which is an awesome outdoor area. And I was an agricultural major.
Oh, so was I.
Yeah, so I
got my undergraduate degree in agronomy, and I got my master's degree in agronomic weed science.
Yeah, so I'm a bachelor's degree in environmental soil science with minors in geology and agronomy, and then my master's is in soil science.
Okay.
With an emphasis on GIS and remote sensing.
Okay. Yeah.
So I went to work for NRCS. I was with them for 12 years. So
what did you do with them?
6 years as a soil scientist, mapping mapped the Bighorns and the Powder River Basin. Did most of the soil mapping there. In real soil surveys when they were still doing, soil survey work. But what I did is for my master's work, I developed a methodology to utilize Landsat imagery and digital elevation models and plug them into a tool, Earth Imagine, if you're familiar with Earth Imagine's knowledge engineer, and to create iterative modeling to predict where soils occur over spatial distribution. So it's taking stuff. Soil scientists, right? Soil's a function of climate relief, organisms, paramaterial, and time. And so when I was an undergrad, I was like, well, we have data layers that are proxies for that. Can't we line them up and figure out, we do it with our eyes, right? We walk to a spot on the landscape and we look and we're like, oh, there's that plant. It's this steep. This is the type of soil we're probably going to find.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so all you do is you find, you basically automate that. and then you create a model and you iterate it. And so you go out into the field, you test it, you run it, you iterate it, and so then you come out with this, this soils map that instead of being polygons is pixels.
Okay.
And it works really well, but USDA, like, they were never going to do that. Like, it just took too long. It was a sea change. I did a lot of actually both. I did a lot of conferences for the agencies for BLM and NRCS, speaking to people about how to make it work and, how you do this and integrate it in your program. And I spoke overseas, and then just wasn't going to go anywhere. And I became frustrated with that. And I'd always been very interested in environmental policy.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did
is... It'd be interesting to take that approach and compare it to what is actually done. Like the way they actually do it, like, how it is, like, and how they do soil mapping, and
we did
that, and that requires all kinds of extrapolation.
Yep, so here's what you get. It's like you can predict it. You can do a soil map. You can automate it 100%, and then you have to check it. But the challenge that you get is that, like, individual soil mappers, it's art, and so what you get is you get their personality in their map. And so if you get the computer will accurately, like, you can model and accurately get descriptions of which types of soils are going to be where, but then you have to integrate art into it. And and that's really tricky, finding a way to get the computer to draw lines that look like lines that a human would draw. And then they never quite match up with a mapper, because that mapper, like, there's personality in their map, lumpers and splitters, and how they like them and how they don't. And so you get into this real challenging thing of, like, you could do it all automated, but you get into a soils crew where you have a couple of old guys, they won't ever accept it because they have a way that they want to do it. And so you just have to be like, you have to nod your head and let them do their thing. And you just use it as a predictive tool. You hand them the predictive map, and then they stick it in their back pocket, and then they go out and do the work the same way that they used to. And that became evident that, like, all the oil soil scientists, like, who were like, that's like, you weren't going to change them. And so I'd done a lot of work with on the policy side. I had an interest, and then they had a position that opened up for what they called a watershed coordinator. And the watershed coordinator wanted somebody who could work on impaired stream issues with, Clean Water Act issues. And that was super cool because they were looking for somebody basically to do, I was a Mormon missionary.
Okay.
They were looking for somebody to do missionary work for for watersheds. Somebody who could go into, like, a hostile meeting and, get everybody around the table to sing Kumbaya, and then, talk to them and walk them through, like, E. coli is a real thing, comes out of cow shit. That's real. And so you got to find a way to get everybody to accept their flaws, and they're part of the problem, and then to create, like, a plan to make the world a better place.
That's a pretty easy, would be a pretty easy thing to evangelize about.
It was a ton of
quality water, high
I
quality
did that.
Water.
Did that for 6 years, and with the geomorph background, I got to spend, like, a lot of time doing stream restoration work and, teaching people how to get in the stream and how to do Rosgen and all that.
Rosgen?
Yeah, Dave Rosgen is like, when you look at stream morphology, like what a healthy stream looks like versus what one doesn't. It's all math, right? You can get in a stream, you can figure out the slope, the sinuosity, the bed load, what types of particles are in there, and you can, it's not like we see it with our eyes, but you can, it's real. Like, a good stream that's got healthy trout in it, it's going to measure a certain way. And Rosgen's the one that, like, did all the, he finished the work of Luna Leopold. And Luna Leopold, who was Aldo's son, was the guy who really, really started it. He's the guy who broke it all down and got everybody understanding that what a healthy stream is and how a healthy stream works in an environment, and how you create pool riffle morphology, and then all that kind of stuff. And he cut his teeth on that. Luna did, on what he called the project. And the project was a stream. It was the Big Sandy out of Pinedale, Wyoming. And so he had a ranch and he had a cabin up there, and that was the, Luna's project. There's pictures of all the Leopold children up there, and Aldo spent a ton of time in Wyoming too. But it's just really cool, like, really cool history of these. You see these old, rancher looking dudes wearing Stetsons, which is what Luna did all the time. And they're the fathers of stream restoration. All the stuff TU does now and everybody else does. It's all it all started with Luna, and then it went, and then Rosgan is Dave Rosgan, who has a center for teaching it now. And if you've got somebody working on stream work and they're not a Rosgan disciple, it's the wrong guy. You got to get someone out of there.
That's cool.
I mean,
I didn't know any of that. That's
and you can see it screwed up in every municipality in the West, right, where they straightened all the streams,
right?
And then they
rip along them,
and it blasts all the material through it, because then you lose your flood zone that you have to have for healthy stream, for your sinuosity, for moving the appropriate bed load for the environment, and the steepness and the stream type and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I taught a lot of that and really love it. And then I got a call from a guy one day, the policy advisor for Matt Mead and the policy director. And he asked me to come to lunch. And so I went to lunch with him, and I was working with DE, state environmental quality and the conservation districts, like a ton. And I was working on federal legislation quietly that nobody knew about, because, remember the Farm Bill reauthorization when we consolidated all the USDA programs?
When was that?
Oh man, 2004 maybe, 2008, 2007, 2008 Farm Bill. We consolidated, WHIP and all these things into basically 8 major programs, where there used to be 30 just oddball programs for USDA. I wrote the white paper to do that.
What were all these programs?
They're conservation programs.
Okay.
It was there were all the Farm Bill conservation programs. There were just so many.
Got pared down.
They just put them into one bucket. So you had all weird little programs, which, a ton of
acronyms became
one
a smaller,
right?
Oh,
yeah.
So there's still more than just EQIP, right?
Yeah, there's EQIP, there's working, and then there's the working lands programs, and then all the different easement programs sort of became, just smaller pots, and weren't, they consolidated, but the white paper, like the idea of consolidation.
Okay.
It was really pushed by the Wyoming conservation districts. And, I got to work on that because the director of the conservation districts had an office right next to mine. I said, how would you do this? And so worked on that, I worked on the Waters of the U.S. rule a ton. Like that was one of my babies. Like
what's that?
Waters of the U.S. is like the big argument, like a stream connectivity, and where the federal government where the federal government, the EPA, has jurisdiction over a stream versus where the state has jurisdiction, right? Because the waters, if you've never ever heard the term waters of the U.S., like the Clean Water Act only applies to the waters of the U.S. Well, what are the waters of the U.S.? The waters of the U.S. Water belongs to the states. So when water falls, right, it belongs to the states, unless it is interstate waters. And so what's an interstate water? Like they're waters that the hook to hook all waters together is the Commerce Clause. So the whole idea is, if waters, what lets it be a water of the U.S. is if you can boat on it. Can you move a boat across it? Because
it's like a navigable stream.
That's where people say navigable water. Is it in fact navigable water? And so the Supreme Court, there were all these different things on it and different interpretations, but there were these huge fights about it because, in the West, in Wyoming and in Montana, you had these efforts by these groups to sue based on the Clean Water Act, water quality provisions that are in the Clean Water Act, and to seek to have EPA, mandate certain actions on lands, like, for example, the removal of grazing, and so there was Montana was the subject of huge lawsuits, and had to write up a bunch of, this is a Clean Water Act, total maximum daily loads for all these different waters in Montana. And Wyoming took a different approach, and that's why I got the job.
Okay, I just want to get this in my head. So the Clean Water Act only applies to navigable
waters,
or in other words, federally owned waterways.
That's right. Or there or waters that have a significant nexus, and that's changed. I don't
What's
think
a
they're using that term.
nexus?
Connection.
Oh, waters that are connected.
Yeah.
to
So if you have a water of the U.S., it's wetlands and waters that that are integral to the function of that, and this is where the whole argument comes in. Waters that are integral to the function of that, in fact, navigable, water of the U.S. If you've got a water that's integral to that, then
but isn't itself a water of America?
Water of the U.S. Yep, and that's the funny part, right? And this is the Obama administration, like they went too far on it, and then the next administration went too far the other way, the Trump administration, because the problem is like all water's connected, right? It's the hydrologic cycle. Everything's connected.
Sure.
And so what you have to do is you have to pick a level of connectivity where you begin to say, all right, the states have jurisdiction over this. The federal government has jurisdiction over that. In fact, and that was the problem because nobody could agree where that line is. And they're still arguing over it. But
okay,
it's not going away because the Clean Water Act is unconstitutionally vague.
Oh, I see.
Because the act leaves it up to the agency, right? This is a problem that you have in a lot of legislation, right? It's the Chevron deference. Like the act leaves it up to the agency to decide too much. And so you get a change in leadership in the agency, right? And somebody's like, oh, we're going to reinterpret this. Now it means this.
Okay, it's not sufficiently stipulated what it...
No, because Congress didn't come out and say it when they built the act.
Okay.
And because they didn't come out and say it when they built the act, they left some discretion in it. You have the discretion whipsaws back and forth based on administration. So,
okay.
Yeah, I was working on that and then got a call. It's like, hey, the governor just said, we want you to come do the energy strategy for Wyoming. And so I went to Matt to work with him, and I built Wyoming. I was the guy that did the plan for the energy strategy. And so Wyoming's
what's the energy strategy?
So lots of governors have policies on what they want to do with energy, right? But Matt Mead wanted to have a energy policy that actually did something rather than just saying something about energy. He wanted to move the state forward. And so he came up with this plan that actually, truthfully, everything I did was a ripoff of the same concepts out of NRCS planning, which was that when you did a conservation plan, because I was a certified conservation planner, you did a conservation plan, you did you developed, you do your background and everything, and then you develop specific, measurable, attainable, relevant time-based goals, right? And so SMART goals. And so what we did is we just did the watershed planning process on the state level. So I got all these people together. We put together, we actually, Taylor Swift had just done a Google Hangout where she'd broadcast it to everybody in the world. And so I was like, well, why don't we just do that? If Taylor Swift can do it, we can do it. And so for the first time, we started using Google Hangouts, and we started broadcasting these public meetings to everybody in the state. And so we're going around the state doing these meetings, and we're broadcasting to everybody. And the whole idea was to get feedback from the state on, basically we did, you can find it online. It's called Leading the Charge, Wyoming's plan for energy, environment, and economy. And so it was
so it's is it about mining coal and
it's about mining
methane?
coal. It's about so the idea was, Matt rejected the idea that you had to choose between an energy economy and having a pristine environment. And that was the whole idea of the plan, was to say that there's this three-legged stool of environment and economy and innovation. And
how did you feel about that? Him rejecting that?
It's NRCS. I mean, that's the thing. It's like,
no, I mean, not from a policy standpoint or a red tape standpoint. I'll just say briefly, my thought on things like that is that it's not that's not feasible. I see. You know who Thomas Sowell is?
I don't. The name's familiar.
he's a Harvard economist, and he says he has a quote that it's pretty famous, that there's no solutions, only trade-offs. And that's the way my mind operates, is that I don't, I mean, politicians, that's just like this, it's just a thing that politicians say. We can have more energy and a cleaner environment.
Yeah,
To me, that's just like,
and I disagree, and here's why. Because I think it works in real life. And so
I think
NRCS,
that's pretty. You gotta
I'll tell you
admit
why.
that's a
I'll tell you
little
why.
Pollyanna. I'm
And
someone that does research on coal mines, and I can tell you
okay,
that that there's the environmental integrity of coal mining lands is not as good as the
as it was
surrounding
before.
land. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we were talking about reclamation now, right? And so part of what we did was we did the it was the avoidance, mitigation, reclamation pieces. How do you do that as a state? What do you require if somebody's going to develop a coal mine? Matt's grandfather was a governor also, and so he's really a famous. He was a governor and a senator, and they called him Cliff Hansen. The guy was just a legend. But he'd always told Matt growing up, he's like, this is your responsibility is as a rancher. It's like, where you take a blade of grass, you leave two behind. And so that was
the I'd say a more common, like the conventional perspective on that is less conservative than that. I mean, I work in that realm. And, I mean, I work on livestock. I work on grazing lands, and I hear take half, leave half, and you're saying this. Matt Mead's dad is take 1/3, leave 2/3.
Yeah, he was I think that the better way to say it would be like, if you're there taking some of the grass, like what can you do? And this is the NRCS part too, right? If we went in and worked on somebody's property, we can probably make their property more productive from a cost benefit analysis. We can probably get them more money out of their place, and we can probably leave the place better environmentally. Now, there's a cost associated with that. And a lot of what I feel about conservation is related to that, because anytime you ask a rancher to, participate in a conservation program, right? It's like, federal handouts. And I'm like, nah, but we're cost sharing. What we're doing is we're asking a guy, it's like, we want to come in and put in filter strips. We want you to stay away from X number of feet of your stream. We want you to put in these borders, and it's going to make the stream better for the entire world. That's going to make it better on your place too, but there's going to be extra positive externality for the entire world. We want you to pay for 40% of it, or 60%.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of federal money that goes into farms and ranches where society gets something out of it in terms of sustainable land
and it's
management.
not all the time.
Oh, it's not. I don't even think it's. I think it's far less than half the time. I mean, what goes into a EKIP, like the environmental benefits to society of programs like EKIP and CRP. It's like those programs are small compared to what farmers and ranchers get from like highly subsidized crop insurance and price supports, and disaster payments.
Sometimes that's why they're putting corn in CRP.
etc. One of the things I believe, and I talk about a lot, is that public money should have access strings attached to it.
Well, this is off the record. I know you're recording it, but that's like, I don't disagree with you. Like, I think that a lot of the programs I'd love to see, and most people then would here's the thing that's challenging, right? Is I've talked to the director of the conservation issue at the time. She's super great lady. Bobby Frank is her name. And I just know her, that background, and a lot of the Wyoming ranchers, then they just wouldn't do it. And so
okay, you're saying they wouldn't take the crop insurance?
They wouldn't take, if they thought that federal money meant that they had to let somebody on their place, they just wouldn't take it. And that's,
well, a lot of them do though. Like in Montana,
think-
we have the Habitat Montana program where if a rancher puts a conservation easement in place, they get 40% of the value of the land.
Yep. And we
And
did
in exchange for that, they have to allow public access. So there is some percentage of farmers and ranchers that absolutely would continue to take the money. I mean, that demonstrates it. And like, I think there's a lot of ranchers and farmers that would have no choice. If the choice was no more price supports, no more subsidies, no more highly subsidized disaster relief insurance, drought insurance, unless you allow public access, it becomes a question of, do I want to sell the place or do I want to allow some public access? Have you ever gotten on one of these ag subsidy databases? There's one that you can look at any farm or ranch in the U.S. and how much public money they've received since 1995. And in almost every case, it's staggering. Like many, many, many millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's I haven't, and I think it's interesting, and I think it probably varies on where you are in the country. In Wyoming, the places that I hang out, they're just it's not. They're not growing corn and wheat. They're growing
yeah, but ranches in the West take a ton of money. Do you want to name me a place? I could look it up for you right now.
Look up. Well, I'll tell you. Look up the Rams Bottom.
Okay, let me hit pause so people don't have to.
Family Ranch.
Well, I'm not going to look it up if I can't then say it. You're saying look it up and tell you later.
You can look them up. Yeah, but I think.
Okay, I won't say it on air, but if you want me to look it up and tell you without saying it on your air, you got to remind me. You got to remind me. You got to remind me. So I had this guy on that wrote this book, Right to Roam, Ken Ilganis.
Yeah.
And his book was about it was putting forth a thesis or a proposal that there should be right to roam. We should have a right to roam in the US like there is in a lot of Scandinavian countries and in Great Britain and stuff like that. And I guess part of the impetus for those laws in those countries was exactly what we're talking about. A lot of the political pressure from that came from the fact that society was bankrolling these agricultural enterprises.
Yeah, and I guess
so it's not that crazy of an idea. It's happened, in other parts of the world.
Yeah, I oppose it. So I think that we all, if you're to go through everybody's life and you see how much you benefit from what kind of programs you as an individual benefit from that the federal government's responsible for, whether your streets or whatever else. I don't think that still means that somebody gets to walk into your house and do whatever they want.
No, not in your house. No, you could have a rule.
But I mean,
you could have a rule
private
that
property rights, right? It's private property rights, and at some point,
it's okay.
And I think the other thing
it is not an imposition on someone's private property rights to be like, you want public money? Allow public access. Their property rights are intact. They can say, no, I don't want public money, and you can stay the fuck out. So it's not so I don't see it as an imposition on their property rights.
And the challenge, right, is that you have to, if you're going to make that deal, you have to make that, that has to be known up front. We can't, the problem is in this country, it's like water rights, right? Water rights are different in Wyoming and in Montana. In Montana, you can walk up the bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up to the high water mark.
Yeah, Wyoming, you can't.
Welcome to Rosgan, right?
Yeah,
Welcome
you can't even put an anchor down in Wyoming, right?
That's right, because when it was established, when people established the rights, when they established the systems here, the system was established that way, and it's different than in Utah, and it's of course way different than it is in the East.
I just the argument that it just so happened to turn out this way, therefore it's correct, doesn't
Well, the
hold.
problem is,
I think there's all kinds of things that
if
are
you change it now,
old, well established, and
Yep.
wrong. Like genital mutilation, I would say, is old, well established in some cultures, and deeply, deeply problematic. And
Yeah,
my
I
ass
I don't
paying
think these are the
paying
same
heavy
thing.
duty amounts of tax, me contributing to taxing to a like being taxed for for commodities that I don't even consume and not getting any access of it. That I think the world would be better if that wasn't the case.
Oh, it's an interesting perspective. But here's the counter to that. I would say is like, you know, you and I, like we care about that, right? Because we like to be able to hunt on that place, right? So 4% of Americans want to be able to want this ability to go on somebody
Oh,
else's.
I bet there's way more people that would want to go on there than just hunters.
And you know the problem, like if you go to a state where try that, like this is interesting, maybe segue, like try to get that passed in Montana or any place else. Try getting it passed in South Dakota. South Dakota is interesting, right? Because South Dakota, their differences in, their right to roam, right? South Dakota, there's these corner crossing things that we deal with, like in Wyoming, right?
Uh-huh.
Not an issue in South Dakota. Why?
Oh, I didn't know it wasn't an issue there.
Because in South Dakota, you can walk up the township line.
Oh, really?
South,
oh, that's cool.
You have a
right. Oh, but so that's every 6 miles you can
Well,
walk.
it's the section lines or whatever. But
every section line you can walk on.
You can, if the line's there, you can, I'm gonna screw it up, but yeah, you can just walk up the line. And so you get all these big fights over that. But that's the way that South Dakota was established, and it's in their law there, and it's just different, because that's the way the state was established, because each state can have unique things about it in terms of these things. And so the problem is now, if I'm from Wyoming and I move to South Dakota, I'm like, well, no, I want it to be like Wyoming. You can't cross that, you can't walk along that line. Well, that doesn't work, right? Because in South Dakota, the entire for 100 plus years, that's the way it is. And there's legal precedent. And if you were to change that legal precedent, it would be unjust. You'd go to the courts and there would be an injustice being done to somebody. And it's the same thing with stream banks. So when you bought your place in Wyoming and you paid money for it, you paid this much money, you paid for a bundle of sticks. You paid for your bundle of rights. And like, I may not like that it's that way. I may want it to be the same way that it is in, Missouri, but it's not. And so if I were to come in and change that entire law,
okay, it just sucks that the current generation has to just suck it up and bear the burden of previous bad decision making for all of perpetuity. Because people in the past did some stupid shit and made some stupid laws, and decided that we're just going to bankroll agricultural enterprises and take this little round ball that we're stuck in this huge cosmos and make all kinds of rules now about where you can go on the round ball that, it's just like, that's the way it is.
And here's again now like, devil's advocate, right? This is easy for us to say, right? Because we don't have it. It's not our ranch. Now you have a much tighter.
Right. It's not my ranch. I shouldn't have to pay for it. I shouldn't have to subsidize your drought insurance.
And here's there's nothing I like better than a ranch, and if ranchers want to let somebody on to hunt, I'm great with that. I think that it's absolutely appropriate, because I know, I'm going to use a 5th generation family ranch that I know. 5th generation family ranch that I know is, we're talking 40,000 acres of country, and that is being managed by a dad, his girlfriend, a 21-year-old son, and an 18-year-old son, and grandma and grandpa, who are too old to really help, but they kind of run around on the side by side and pick up the mail and stuff. That's 40,000 acres. And that 40,000 acres is just, they're keeping that in the family, and people are trying to buy it every day. And I'll tell you the guy that's trying to buy it. The guy that's trying to buy it owns some, it's like the Meadows, or there's this huge, golf course apparatus in Florida. And he buys everything on the bighorns when it comes for sale, everything on the front. And when he buys it, then what does he do? He locks it up, and it's for him and it's for his friends. And, it's a great place to hunt elk, like this ranch is. Why? It's a great place to hunt cow elk because to them, cow elk are a negative commodity. Why? Because for this family, those elk are going to destroy every fence on that freaking ranch this winter. They're going to run through everything. 1,000 elk, right? Mm-hmm. Now, when they get over onto this other place, nobody's going to touch them. Why? Because this dude from Florida likes to come in and just invite buddies in to hunt, like big money guys. And so this family is doing everything they can to be able to pass that ranch down. And the boys, like these kids, man, they've grown up 30 miles from the nearest town their entire life. And it's just a different, and to see them and how hard they work and how different they are than everybody, I'm like, God bless them. I want that family there no matter what. And the challenge is then, I get to come on there and hunt, and I bring vets, I bring, people that I can trust, and I call him and I'm like, hey, can we come on and whack some cows? And he's like, absolutely. Why does he like having us come? Because one day a friend connected us to get a couple Delta Force guys on there who were retired guys. And we went in there, and I took them to the top of a hill, and we took a bunch of cows with suppressed long range rifles. And guess what the elk didn't do? They didn't run through every fence on the place. And he said, you know what? You bring as many guys that are going to hunt like that as you can, and you come kill elk. You call me, you come kill elk. And the reason that's different is he's had other experiences where Joe Public comes on with a 4-wheeler. And Joe Public, and I've seen it on the county road on the exact same place. Dude's flying up and down the road with the Cummins just screaming, right? Trying to scare elk because they want to scare them onto the one piece of state land that's close by where they didn't want to make a phone call. And so, I get it. I get it when these guys are like, I don't want Joe Public on here. Come bring your buddies and come kill as many elk as you can starting November 1st. But please don't, and this is a discussion that's been had with the Game and Fish here. Game and Fish is like, yeah, we want to make it public access to this spot. And they're like, no, the 5 of them, the 4 of them, dad, the 2 boys, the girlfriend, they can't keep up with the public when the public gets on there. They can't clean up the mess fast enough. And if this guy,
yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying that in exchange for public money there should be carte blanche public access. I like the Habitat Montana program where the land, the properties that enroll in those easements allow some number of hunter days through the block management program. And, there's no expectation that they allow 4-wheelers on there. It can be entirely walk-in. Matter of fact, I much prefer that it be walk-in.
I totally agree with you. And I think that that's the challenge. We got to figure out how to get more programs that work out there for landowners to be able to use. And I don't think every state has great programs. And to be frank, agencies aren't always good about making changes. So if you're like, hey, let's be innovative and figure out a better way to get this done. I mean, this, try and pass something in Montana to try and do a better job. It's hard.
Yeah.
And because anytime you start talking about wildlife and access, how polarizing is that?
Oh, it's, yeah.
I mean, it just
Levi, I cannot muster the energy. I cannot conceive of what it would take to muster the energy to engage in the political process in any way. Because I just think of it as so futile.
Well, you have to do it, Matt.
What's that?
put on your helmet. We got to do it. You have to have it.
No, man, I'm waging a battle for hearts and minds.
It's necessary.
But like,
I didn't ever plan to be here. Like I got a governor called me and asked me, like when I started, I did the energy work for Matt. We had a great program that established. We were the first state. Wyoming was the first state to have pre-drilling water quality requirements to make to require disclosure of everything that's in fracking fluids, to require post-development monitoring, to increase the monies that people put in escrow to actually cover the messes they make. We required 2-to-1 mitigation on stuff where if you're going to screw up a piece of habitat here, you're going to do twice as much money in over here into fixing it someplace else. Because there are sacrifice areas. You can't get every area back.
So Matt Mead was a Republican governor, but he was
absolutely
big on environmental regulation.
Yeah, he's a stud, and there's a reason.
What's he do now?
I think he plays a lot of golf.
Okay.
He's on some boards. He's got a great law firm. There was people wanted him to run for the Senate, and he wanted to. He's got a amazing little place in the universe where his family basically settled Jackson Hole. Lots of times I look at, I think Yellowstone must have been, the guy must have read up on Matt Mead's history, because when his family, like his grandfather, swam across the Snake River, in the early spring or something like that, to go carve out their stake of the world, and then helped, did a lot, his great grandfathers and to help kind of build everything up there. His grandfather, who became governor, was raised in a sod, topped cabin, and there's these pictures of him out there. He said the first time his grandfather, Cliff Hansen, ever had beef was when he went to college.
Whoa!
Because you didn't eat beef. You eat game. You sell beef.
Okay.
And so, and they were in Jackson Hole, like before Jackson Hole was Jackson Hole. So his mother was killed in a horse accident, and she had run for governor, and had a horse roll over on her, and then the family ended up selling the Jackson Hole ranch. His brother still has the family holdings, a big chunk of them, I think half of them, and his brother started a company that, if you have Wyoming whiskey, his brother is the guy who owns Wyoming whiskey.
Okay.
And, it's Brad Mead, and so Brad is still up there. Matt, he ended up turning his part of the ranch into another ranch. Currently, he owns a place that's on the Wyoming-Colorado border and has a massive conservation easement on an amazing historic ranch that he is, making sure it stays historic and awesome. And like I said, he does a lot of phenomenal work still. I wouldn't be surprised if he shows back up politically, but he does.
How long has he been out of office?
7 years.
Okay.
So he's been, as long as when I left, the governor's office was his last year.
Okay.
But yeah, I went out for him. We did I did the water strategy, the energy strategy, water strategy, developed the outdoor rec strategy for the state, and then helped develop the Office of Outdoor Recreation, the Wyoming Lottery Corporation, which was more fun than all that. And then also took over all of his firearms stuff. And so that's how I kind of, worked job changes and things like that. But then did all of his national stuff. I was his guy. He was the chair or the vice chair for the entire time he was governor of the Natural Resources Committee at the National Governors Association. And that's where we were extremely influential. We were the guys that pushed. He was the guy that pushed personally, and I think made the difference in the permanent reauthorization of the Land, Water, and Conservation Act. And then the changes that came there.
I like the sound of this cat. He sounds like
he was working on Endangered Species Act reform in a major way. And that's, if you know Dave Williams, Dave was his ESA guy, and that was his effort. And that's actually how I met your brother, was because, we were looking at, we were trying to get this stuff done, and Mead's a pragmatist and cared about that stuff. And so we were looking for voices, people who we thought had the same voice, who were reaching and influencing, if you will, a national audience. And I came across some stuff that your brother had written, and I'd read it. And so then I started doing some more follow up, and I saw some magazine articles, and then I tracked the guy down, and I saw he's doing TV stuff, and then and then got to know like his persona, what and things. No, I don't know him I don't know him like you know him. But I know that in terms of the things that I cared about that we were trying to do in terms of environmental work, right? Here was a guy who was unique because his ethos seemed to be the ethos that we wanted. It was a guy who was fairly conservative, but at the same time, he cared about these things, right? There was no doubt. Like, you can't tell me that he doesn't care about elk.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to
habitat.
I wouldn't want to argue that.
Absolutely, and the future and hunting, and all these things, and so we just kind of that's and so this to me that
okay, yeah.
So
I don't know.
so grizzly bears.
I don't know.
If
what he cares about,
that's my perception.
If what he cares about is the future of publicly accessible, high quality, non-pay hunting, then he's got an awfully strange way of demonstrating it.
Well, I will say, they're like, we're both going to have opinions on this type of stuff. But here's the thing for me is that we needed people who had the same ethos that we had and we were trying to build. It could speak to a large audience. And Steve, when we had this discussion about ESA, did an article that went into New York Times from Stephen Ranella about the Endangered Species Act. And what's unique about Steve is that he can talk when and you probably know this. There's a lot of people on the far right in hunting culture who do not like Steve Ranella. Why? Because he's too green.
Yeah, sure.
He's too green, because he's
Meat Eater has definitely pivoted to the right in recent years in response to that.
But
they got these holy roller dudes on there now, and they got more like a Southeast US kind of a bent with some of their content creators.
Well,
but yeah, but point stands that he's still, in terms of conservation and access, he still his their outward facing stance on all that stuff is to be very much in support of access and environmental conservation. But then it's just that there's what one says that they're for and what one's net effect is, and I just think the net effect of what they do is negative.
And I strongly disagree. And I think that I'm going to say it depends. It's like anything in the landscape, right? This depends on what hill you're standing on, and what and where your binoculars are trained.
Well, okay, so I guess well, can we spend a minute on that? Because what if I think that we can make it more objective and not depend so much on what hill one is standing on, if we state exactly what it is that we're trying to optimize. So I would say that anything that makes hunting, high quality hunting, more expensive is not like a pro hunting position. Anything that makes hunting, high quality hunting, harder to find and engage in. Anything that makes it so. Here's a big one. I would argue that anything that makes it so that your ability to hunt what you want, where you want, anything that constricts that is not aligned with the future of hunting. And I think of hunting media as having a negative effect on all of those things. I think it increases the price, it reduces the quality, and it reduces the freedom. So, okay, in terms of the environment, I don't know. Yeah, they could be good for the environment. There's a lot of literature that indicates that intense hunting pressure is bad for wildlife. Everything from lipid concentrations in ducks and reproductive fitness in brown bears and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something you'll never hear anybody in the hunting sphere talk about.
Well, here's why, right? Because there's a really good reason to why, and you're kind of the problem is that the hill that you're standing on is very like what you just said. It's very personal. You said like
no. It's not personal because
no.
I'm just concerned about who I've taken on for my stakeholder group, whether they want me or not, is people that want to engage in high quality, publicly accessible, non-pay hunting. And I just think it's very difficult to make the case that hunting media has been kind to those people.
So when I say it's very personal, I mean, like you're looking at a very defined group of people, right? You're looking at a very defined group of people. How many people hunt? What's the percentage of Americans that hunt?
Oh, there's like 16 million hunters. What, 5% of people?
Let's call it 15 million. About 15 million. It could be 16. That's fine. How many people hunted in 1980? You know these numbers. 17 million. Right? The heyday of hunting.
Right. That from 1975 to 1985, there was a couple million more hunters than there are now.
Now, what was really different is like if you were a hunter at that time, right? What was the population at the time? Let's just take a 20-year slot from 20, and I, of course, have the numbers in front of me. From 2004 to 2024, you had the population grow from 293 million to 342 million. And in 2004, we had about 13 million people hunting. And in 2024, we had that bump, right? We had that COVID bump where a lot of people kind of started to kind of reacquaint. And so your numbers just kind of popped up for those last couple of years.
If you run a regression of license holders on year, you get there's a strong positive relationship going back to 2010 or 2005. 2005.
Yeah, I buy that.
So it's not just the COVID.
It's moving up. Yeah. But here's the challenge, right? So your raw number is going up. And that's what we're talking about. Two things can be true at once. So yeah, your number is going up from 13 million to 15 million. It's growing. What's the percentage of people hunting doing?
It's going down because
that's right.
But I don't see that as problematic.
It depends on what your goal is. So if your goal is
high quality, publicly accessible, non-pay hunting for those who want to engage in it. So, and that last clause to me is critical because I don't think that we should be encouraging more. Yeah.
And here's what I'd say to that. Like I'd say that's going to be problematic because you're saying we don't want to encourage more people to do that. We've done enough encouraging of people to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Don't encourage people to want to hunt.
Right.
Well, less people. Here's the funny part, right? As a percentage, you're winning your battle because a smaller percentage of people.
I don't care about. I don't know why we want to be dividing by the number of people. I don't. That just has no bearing on what the resource can support, and it has no bearing on the quality of the experience. If anything, the more people there are in the country, the less hunters the resource can support. Because the more
you want to see out there.
No, I'm just saying if you tell me if you double the number of people at home on the couch, that means you've also reduced the number of people that the resource can support because those people cause habitat fragmentation.
Here's the problem. You can't blame that on hunters. Because hunters, if you look at the numbers of people let's shift to the bigger picture. Let's back up and get on a higher peak and look down.
Okay.
How many people are participating in outdoor recreation in the United States of America by percentage.
Um,
You know that it's over 50% of Americans 57% of Americans identify themselves as outdoor recreationists. And guess what? That number continues to go up. So the percentage is going up. Not only that, as population increases, it's not like hunting where less people are, the percentage is going down. There is far more on an annual basis now, huge pressure on animals. You go to Colorado, you know what is affecting elk herds in Colorado? It's not the elk hunters.
it's
the mountain
hikers,
bikers.
and hikers
Yeah.
and stuff.
And and here's where this gets into really muddy water. Because Colorado just tried to pass a bill this year, right? To ban hunting of big cats.
Okay, we're covering a lot right now.
Well, I know,
so
but
if you want to focus,
here's why.
If
Here's
we're going
why
to
this is important.
focus, let's just focus on one thing at a time. If you want to talk about the need for more hunters to ward off threats from non-hunters, is that what you want to talk about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because you can't separate these two things. You can't
Well,
say what we really want is a smaller percentage of people. We want less people. We need to have less people involved in hunting as a percentage, or keep it the same. But by the way, we need to have a bigger voice. Those two things don't go hand in hand.
I see.
Right to roam.
I see.
Right, the right that you want, the ability to go where you want, the programs to be able to do good things for hunters. As the number of hunters decreases, what do you think happens to the interest of lawmakers in supporting hunters?
I think what happens is, as the number of hunters declines, the public acceptance of hunting increases.
It's just not true.
It is. Okay. Let me lay out the argument as to why I believe that that's true. There was a survey last year, the first of its kind. It was conducted in Austria. I wish there was more data on this, but
I wish there was data in the US about it.
It was a survey of Gen Z folks. It was 1,050 non-hunters. Okay, and they showed these people social media images of harvested game. Here's just a few of the stats from that. 97% of respondents had a negative perception of the image. 73% believe that by law, there should be a warning label on dead animals on the computer. 69% would prefer not to see think that it shouldn't be allowed. 67% felt pity for the animal. There was an 18% increase in contempt towards hunters. There was a 19% increase in the feeling that hunters were trophy hungry, 17% that they lack empathy, and a 19% increase in the feeling that that hunters were violent. So I'm just of the impression that the more you wave hunting in people's face, the more energized they are to do away with the whole thing. And I think it's quite reasonable to believe that if 15% of Americans hunted instead of 5%, it would bring it to a head and end the whole thing.
Well, I think you're making.
I don't see how one can
because what you're
claim
about,
to be concerned about the impact of anti-hunters and not vehemently oppose using dead and dying animals as a source of entertainment.
So we're talking about different things here. So what you're talking about is 100% the message that we send as hunters is critically important. And what you're saying is, if everyone has a negative attitude about hunters, and that's the face of the hunting industry is viewed as negative, that's bad for hunting. And you're right. You're right. But here's the difference. 100%, like it or not, you sit 20 anti-hunters down and go to season 5 of your brother's show or whatever it is and have him sit through an episode where he doesn't shoot a deer and he's sitting there talking about on the top of a mountain, what is their opinion about hunting after you force them to watch a season of Meat Eater? It's better. Well, why? Because you can't, messaging happens. That's not a question. We can't hide and pretend that messaging isn't important. It's important. Who the messenger is the most important.
Yeah,
You're
but
right.
there's just
If we
not a
let
way to
idiots go out,
There's
if
just
you
not
let
a way to
idiots go out
control
online
that.
and do stupid stuff, there's not a way to control it. There's ways to control it. But here's the thing. If you're telling me that there's idiots who are going to post stuff anyway, like, I agree with you. There's idiots. Do something. We need to do something as a community about the idiots. We need to police them. We need to talk to, if we talk about sponsorships, we need to make sure that if you're a company and you're involved in this space, you better make sure one of the idiots isn't somebody you're paying to act like an idiot. At the same time, we cannot afford as a hunting community to not have a positive voice. Here's what happens if we do. We talked about this. Mike Lee happens.
Oh, wait, whoa. I'm not, I want to get past the anti-hunting thing and then move on to something else.
Anti-hunters you're going to have. You need to have, right. It's just a fact of life that if you're going to have people talking negatively about you, this is just public relations, right? You better have a good PR team on the other side. We can't afford to not have advocates for the hunting community. And that advocacy.
I am all about advocacy, but here's what I don't. Okay, so who's left? I mean, here's what I'm all about advocacy. I think we should hunt quietly, advocate loudly. But the position seems to be that the only people that, in order to have advocacy, we got to make entertainment out of killing stuff.
I just disagree. I'm not sure that's true.
So, do you know of anybody that has a large platform that doesn't?
How about the biggest one in the outdoor space? I think what made, and maybe you can tell me.
Who's the biggest one?
I think it's Meat Eater.
Oh yeah, they make entertainment. They make entertainment out of killing things. That's the price of admission. That's how he became famous. Was killing stuff with a cameraman behind him. You take that out, and that whole company is done.
I know the guys who worked on the first season of that.
Yeah. What'd you see in the first season? You saw things dying on camera. That is the price of admission.
So but here's a question for you. I mean, it's not a question; it's a reality. Again, let's take 50 non-hunters and put them in a room and have them watching that. And here's the reality: because of the way the messaging is done, they don't come out of that screening angry at hunters. They come out of there going like, "Wow, I kind of get it."
I just think there's more. Another thing I'd say is there's just things way more important than the anti-hunter boogeyman bullshit. I mean, it's not a surprise to me that there's groups that go after predator hunting. Have you looked at the American attitudes towards hunting, fishing, and shooting reports going back the last 2 decades? Sure. It's like every time they do the survey, it's the vast majority of Americans are not on board with hunting cougars and bears, and 78% are on board with hunting deer. And incidentally, the number that oppose hunting predators is going up, and the number that oppose hunting deer is going up. So if Meat Eater is having this is anathema to the anti-hunting crowd, then it's not very effective, because the number of people that oppose hunting is on the increase.
So it's fundamental. Like this is so nuanced, and I think that the thing is this is challenging. I think in some ways because you have I believe this. This is to you. I feel like there's some personal stuff here too. There's like, I can't separate, my experience isn't your lived experience in this. And so I haven't seen the things that you've seen. I don't have the background that you have to be able to, tell you, like, you feel strongly about this, but I'll tell you, in Colorado, the only reason that you can still hunt cougars in Colorado is because of education campaign. An education campaign that was hugely important to that was the public face, and it was people. It was literally the meat eaters of the world that were part of teaching people and getting people to be like, hey, look, this is different than what you think it is. And it was effective and it worked. And what you saw is that what you saw with the public on that was really interesting. When you did the polling on a ban on hunting large cats in Colorado prior to effective messaging, we were down 10 points in Colorado on that issue. We were going to lose that ballot initiative because the public didn't understand. You know what happened when we put money and effort into education and teaching people? We won.
I don't think that it would have ever been a threat to be something we would have had to fight in the first place if it wasn't for hunting media.
That's just not true.
Hunting
because
media,
I know who
hunting media has demonstrably caused hunting bans in North America. You can't hunt grizzly bears in British Columbia anymore because of a video that went viral of a grizzly getting shot and slide several times as it slides down an avalanche chute. You can't hunt. There's a method of take ban in Alberta. You can't spear hunt there anymore because Josh Bomar speared a bear.
So what you're saying is that
I don't think the Colorado thing would even have come up.
Bad actors in the that's just I don't
think it would have come up if it wasn't for hunting TV and hunting social
politics
media.
in Colorado can just tell you you're wrong. Like knowing who brought it and knowing who's behind it and the power of one individual to move something because of the group that individual belongs to.
But what empowered that person probably in the first place was seeing a bunch of disgusting crap on social media.
Vegetarian. That person is like zero, like they're, they are on the extreme. And so what you have is you're talking about a war on the extremes. You're talking about over here, we got an extreme bad actor, maybe from our community. And then over there, you've got people who think that elephants should be able to vote.
Okay, right.
And you've got to have advocates in the pragmatic center who are good.
And the only way to get them is here's what I just can't get my head around. The only way to have powerful advocates is to kill stuff with the cameraman behind you.
Again, like, if you were to tell people,
has there ever been any meat eater like shows that weren't centered around killing things?
Around hunting?
It's all the people that have big platforms that came out against the land sale, that came out against the mountain lion ban. The unifying feature of all of them is they make entertainment out of the death of animals. I just think it's looking
at those people's lifestyle, what do you think? What do you think of their lifestyle? Those people.
I don't know about their lifestyle. Their public persona to me is deeply problematic. To me,
you hunt, right?
From a spiritual perspective, from an ethical perspective, and from the perspective of somebody that cares about the future of hunting, I just don't see a place for trotting out the death of animals on camera.
So, did you read Hemingway?
Yeah.
You read Roosevelt?
Yes.
Okay. So, please, in your mind, should they have written those books?
I think things that used to be okay can become bad.
Okay.
You know, like it used to be good to get bat guano out of caves to make gunpowder, but now we should probably leave the bats alone because they're not doing so good, and just manufacture the gunpowder synthetically. So I don't see those books as
So people who told
damaging. And
hunting
even
stories,
now, if even now, I'd say that if hunting media was constrained to the written word, I think that'd be okay. I don't think it'd be
I think that what you're
nearly
really
as
fighting is
damaging.
what you're really fighting, and I mean, is uh, humans have always told these stories, haven't they? We always have.
Not all humans. Like if you look at the Jew Tuscanzi for folks in West
Hunters
Africa,
have told these stories.
no,
Native
they
Americans have
did.
told these stories.
They had taboo against
No.
telling hunting stories.
Well, it's like
The
our culture
Jew
has.
Tuscanzi, you can read quotes from the elders of the tribe where it's like hunters were highly discouraged from coming into camp and telling hunting stories.
Okay. Well,
so and the thing about the drawings, the reason that I can't get my head around the drawings on the cave being like this idea that that's somehow an extension of being something on a camera for a million strangers. I just think of that.
I disagree with you. Like the thing
we've
is,
always told hunting stories to people we know. We've always told hunting stories,
and we've always written them down, and we've always shared these things. That's not the problem. Is not the story. The problem is how
we've also always had slavery and murder. Just because something's old doesn't make it good.
I mean, you're on really slippery ground making this argument, because what you're really saying is like the same argument you're making is an argument for the end of hunting. Like you may not realize it yet, but what you're making is you're making the argument like, I really like to do this, and we're bringing and somebody's bringing negative attention to it, and I think I could keep doing it if you didn't bring the negative attention, but I don't want anybody to talk about it because I'm doing it. And the thing is, you have to have a positive message about it if it's a positive lifestyle. And hunting,
I don't oppose talking about hunting.
Hunting is a positive thing.
I oppose the use of dead and dying animals as a source of entertainment. If somebody wants to have a podcast and talk about hunting, I don't have a stance on that.
And so you don't think it's a problem then if somebody, it's like, I'm hunting and I love it, and here's the great outdoors, and here's how I do it. I'm hiking around the mountains and look at how beautiful this is, and bang, you don't see anything, and suddenly we're cooking a steak. That's fine?
No, that's a dead animal in my view.
Man, and I just think you're like, we're not going to be able to make you happy, Matt. Because
I said
people,
from
you want hunting
to
be something that's an enigma. It's an enigma to people. Like they don't understand it. You're not trying to help people understand. You're saying like, look, we're going to do this, and at the end of the day, I want you to be okay with it. I don't want you to be mad about it. But we're not going to share with you. Like, if you want people to understand why you, Matt Ranella, like to hunt, you're going to have to be honest about it, and you're going to have to be able to explain that. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to have to be a dirt bag, because there are dirt bags. But if you can't explain to somebody, if you can't bring somebody, and here's the challenge, right? What's more, if you can't help somebody understand, like, yes, I eat meat, and all these things go into that, and let me help you understand why I'm okay with that. That is the only thing. Like, that's what keeps hunting viable.
I don't think of hunting as like particularly viable. I think of it as a pastime that's been in decline for decades, and that I see media as the cause. So let me play you a little clip. I'd like to get that's related to this. This is from a Meat Eater.
No, gotcha. I don't want any gotchas.
No, it's not. It's not okay. You or no. I'm just.
Well, I'm not on.
I just think this could maybe help us, like get past this roadblock we seem to be having right now. Just give a listen.
Locals up there that live and hunt up there, they don't really want everyone knowing about the Black River, but the word is out on the Black River.
There's no secret.
I think there's no secret, man. It's all over the internet and YouTube. So just to kind of paint a little bit of a picture on why the Public Timber Project exists, last season on Duck Opener at Ashpaw Boat Ramp, which is one of the 3 probably busiest boat ramps on the Black River, we had 1,000 trucks and boat trailers lined up at the boat ramp. That line it stretched out 1.5 miles from the boat ramp, and fellas were in line for up to a week before opening morning. It's 1,000 trucks and trailers at one boat ramp.
No meat eater, know that. No Duck Dynasty, know that. And that to me is not progress.
So
that to me is a horrible sounding situation for duck and hunter alike. And it's the consequence of people telling their story on YouTube. I gotta share my hunting's journey.
Matt, how many people are hunting today versus how many people were hunting in 1980?
There were about 2.5 million more hunters then, and it was too many in my view.
Okay, that's fine.
Here's
That's
the thing.
your view.
Okay, so what I'd say is this: the correct number of hunters, in my view, is whatever number there would be if we right now stopped putting dead and dying animals on computers.
So what? So you're saying that you want to wave a magic wand, right? And say like nobody can ever show a picture anymore of an animal, dead animal.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people drop out just because I think a lot of people hunt just to draw attention to themselves. There was a survey last year that indicated 48% of people pick their vacation spot because they think it'll look good on social media. I think people's pastimes are driven to a large extent these days based on the statements they can then make about themselves. And that boat ramp that had 1,000 trucks at it, there'd probably be 500 if it wasn't for half those people trying to be the next Duck Dynasty.
So would you prefer then? You just want less hunters?
I want whatever number would exist.
It's less. You want less.
If hunting wasn't used as a source of entertainment, and it would be a lower number, and I think that would be good because I see, and there's a lot of evidence on this. You can't just say that.
Here's the problem with like that whole statement about a source of entertainment. Like this is gray. These are shades of gray. These things aren't there's not like, again.
No, it's just like don't pixelate that. Don't devote pixels to dying and dead animals. I think that's pretty black and white.
Okay, that's so what about your hunts? Can we put your hunts on Instagram?
No. Why would I want to?
You hiking around with your llamas? Can we show that on Instagram?
I know. I'm not going to pimp all my. I'm not going to pimp.
What about my bro Dave? Dave hiking to the top of a mountain, standing on Laramie Peak.
Definitely not. That's what brought the reason we're podcasting right now. You probably remember this is because I put out a post about a lake in Wyoming that the fecal concentration, the human fecal concentration in that lake is 3,500 times higher than what the EPA recommends for
this
swimming.
Conversation is going the right way. So here's the question. Should we just now, what percentage of people going to that lake are hunters versus what percentage are hikers?
I'm open to them all being hikers and none of them being hunters. Okay. I'm just saying there'd be less feces in the water if, as a society, I'm not trying to pass any laws with anything. If society,
we didn't show pictures of hiking,
if we didn't clap for people that showed pictures of hiking,
or riding a bike,
I don't see riding a bike as deleterious.
Well, it's mountain biking. Then we can
anything. We shouldn't draw. We shouldn't use. Okay, there are certain activities where the more participants there are, the less enjoyment it brings the participants.
All activities. Which activities are separate than
soccer?
That? As the world becomes
soccer, chess, meditation, yoga.
Okay, so you're telling me that soccer fields aren't more crowded than they used to be? You're telling me that
if soccer gets too crowded,
basketball is not.
You build another court.
You build another court.
If you
boat ramps,
just Google
swimming pools,
Google crowding and basketball, and I guarantee
Disneyland,
you're not going to find
Disneyland, right? Disneyland's was, that number I pulled up before. In 1980, there were 7.9
Nephi,
million.
certainly you can agree that you can mitigate the effects of crowding in soccer much more easily than you can in hunting.
So outdoor recreation.
In hunting, when you have too many participants like
Here's
we do
what I'm
now,
saying.
the number of tags per applicant dwindles dramatically. Like
if you get rid of
between
all
2016 and now, in the 5 western states of Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, and Utah, and I think that's it. For moose, antelope, elk, and mule deer, your chances of hunting for those species has declined over. It's gone from getting to hunt once every 2 years to once every 5 or 6. That is not something that's happening in soccer.
But you don't want.
If you want to play soccer, you can go play soccer. Our ability to even engage in the activity is drastically being diminished.
Matt, it's happening
as a consequence.
It's happening in all the outdoor activities. Outdoor recreation.
Yeah, that's why I say
fastest growing.
The easiest way to handle that is to, as a society, say, God damn it, we're going to reserve these activities for people that do it for the love, that do them for the love of it.
For the specials. Yep. These activities,
not for the specials, that are just for anybody that wants to do them.
They really
doesn't need to get attaboyed for it.
So here's a couple of interesting things.
Or make money from it.
The population of the United States of America is 20% greater than it was roughly 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So your numbers of hunters are the same. You're telling me when you go to the trailheads, it's way crowded, right? Mm-hmm. We're crowded at our trailheads. No, there's some shifts in there that are really interesting. But the reality is that crowding, to blame hunters for the crowding, it's just not accurate. Now, when you look at
I've gone hunting at trailheads where there's 50 trucks and all of those trucks are hunting. How can it not be hunters? So have non-hunters reduce draw odds over 150%? I think it's hunters that reduce draw odds.
So Matt, I think there's been a shift in hunting. I'd say, I don't have the data in front of me. I think we have seen a shift, and I think the numbers. I actually pulled up some stuff from Utah, but I'm not going to open it up to look at it because it's going to take too long to talk about deer hunting. And I think what you don't like, the biggest beef that you have, it isn't with the number of hunters, it's with what they want to hunt and where they want to hunt. And I could agree with you. If you were to say people talking about the things that they like to hunt, like maybe that affects how direction that people hunt. That's you're probably right. But that said, Matt, there's way more pressure on the great outdoors from all these other activities than there are on hunting.
I'm concerned about that as well. Surfing, mountaineering.
But why would we say
backpacking?
Why would we say we can't share hunting stories and hunting experiences, but we can share mountaineering stories?
I'm not saying that.
Pictures of people on Everest.
We
can share
the post that led you to being on this podcast was expressing opposition to sharing of pictures at this lake that's full of shit because it's got too many people at it. So it's not.
So they want to have a permit system on the lake, and I think that what I'm saying,
that's what happens. We restrict access.
I think that I'm saying.
Instead of restricting access, why don't we as a society decide one of the motivations for going to the lake isn't going to be to have people clap for you? That seems more reasonable to me than restricting access.
So social media. You talked about an uptick in hunting, and for sure, here's an interesting thing that the Outdoor Industry Association discovered. And by the way, OIA has some great data on, the outdoor recreation economy is like almost $1 trillion economy now. People participating in outdoor rec.
Yeah.
And hunting is a tiny part of it. Now, shooting sports is a big part of it.
Right.
So about 10% is shooting sports, and you have about 80%. We talk about Pittman Robertson and stuff. Here's an interesting, I'm always telling people we need, if we want, like, let's get people involved in that aspect of it and give the elk a break sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's important, and that's a great idea, and it's something that we need to embrace as a community. And you said this is like, does this mean I'm gonna hunt like once every 10 years? I'm gonna get to go like chase a big elk or something like that. You text me like, make me feel okay about that or something like that.
Yeah, right. That just
Here's
doesn't.
the challenge
Yeah.
that we have. The challenge that we have in our country is this: population's growing. It's not going to stop. People are coming to the great outdoors. It's not going to stop. Influencers are a freaking $35 billion industry.
I could see them going away. Matter of fact, there's recent articles indicating that the power of influencers to direct expenditures it's declining. Yeah, because I hope it goes the way of frickin' parachute pants and break
because
dancing.
It's advertising. All we're talking about that's different now, in my opinion, it's the media environment. It's what is the media environment today? How are people? Who are we letting? The problem is it's harder for us as hunters. It used to be pretty easy for us to gatekeep who got to be our messengers, didn't it? Because Hemingway was going to have somebody like we got to pick. We had a magazine and we could pick who's going to get to write, and we could pick the pictures we were going to share. And what you have with the social media world is it's much harder.
Well, okay, I'm open to that. I'm open to that, but what I'm trying to do is get people to pick. I'm trying to say, if you care about the future of hunting, looking at that is going against your own best interest. So I still think we have that power. We're just unwilling to wield it because people haven't connected the dots, I don't think.
Here's where I think that you're these arguments are at odds, because I think you're right, but the stories are going to be told. We just can't stop it.
Yeah. When I started this, I said there was a 1% chance that something positive would come out of it. But
here's what we can do.
If nothing positive comes out of it, it's going to be destroyed.
But here's what we can do.
We are on this, what I see is an insidious march towards worse and worse and worse hunting that I've experienced since I was 12 years old. So 42 years, I've never seen hunting get better, only seen access get worse, only seen tag allocations become tighter. I've just never seen it I've never gone through a period where I've seen it get better. So it seems I agree with you that,
20 years ago, we have a 20% uptick in population. If it happens again, the next 20 years, it's going to be harder to get to a trailhead in 20 years than it is today, right. Especially if people, and here's the challenge, the more electronic people get, I would challenge you and I'd say there's something in the human soul that's not okay with it. And when people who have been stuck behind a screen, we're just making this worse because people don't work outside anymore. And so when people don't work outside anymore and they see pictures on their zombie screen, right? We're all freaking zombies looking at the tiny little box all day. Every once in a while, people want to break out of that. And should we allow them to?
I'm not trying to pass any laws to prevent anybody from doing anything. To me, it's not a law. You can do it. I'm not allowing you to thing. It's to me, what I'm doing is
they're going to come. They're going to come. And the question you have to ask now is this, because they're coming, the question you have to ask is, you're going to have people trying to influence. And I would challenge you with this: hunt quietly. We're not going to be able to get people to I think that this is personal opinion. You can't throw them all away. So pick your advocates. Pick the people that you want, because those companies, advertising is a constant. It's always been happening. It's in this country, and it's never going to go away. So if you want a messenger out there, if you want the right things being said about hunting, if you want to have the people that when you say, no, dang it, I want you to stop the sale of federal lands, you want people that'll listen, right?
Mhm.
If you want that to happen, what you need to do is not just say, don't support anyone. It's to pick the people and say, that is the advocate we want. That is the kind of guy that's going to speak for us. And it's okay if later on, if you have to ostracize that guy and get rid of him
I
because
pick me.
he turns bad.
I
You
pick
pick you?
me.
I
Yeah.
thought you would.
But I won't.
Kind of funny how that works.
But I'm not an option because I don't show dead stuff.
Yeah. Well, Matt,
You
I
know,
think the challenge
if
is
I
this,
showed
it's not about showing the dead stuff.
if I would have,
You got to
with
pick
my
a better
advantages from my brother, if I decided I'm going to be llama man and I'm going to have Big Elk tied to my 12 passenger van with my llamas from the back, and
you don't need.
I'd have 200,000 followers.
You'd have it if you called yourself Llama Man. It has nothing to do with the elk. It has to do with people seeing you hiking across the side of a mountain with a bunch of llamas. And some dude sitting behind his desk in Chicago who's never been outside and whose soul is saying, like, gosh, I really wish my life didn't suck, that I didn't have to just walk to the park. Is going to go like, God damn it. Just for one weekend, I want to be fucking Llama Man. I want to be Matt Ranello on the side of a mountain with a llama. And you know what I'm going to do? I'd pay for it. You know what? You know what's crazy? That guy's going to go do that and have a life-changing experience.
Nephi, just help. Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I understand those people. But here's where
so be a good.
Here's
llama.
what I'm sincerely wondering this. I'm not like saying this to counter you. I'm just struck by the fact that the more people that do it, the less enjoyable it becomes.
It's really,
and the more environmentally deleterious it becomes. And somebody's got to point that out. Shit in the water.
Man.
Shit in the water is not good. 1,000 boats at a single boat ramp waiting for a week to launch. Somebody's got to say that that's not progress.
With you about this, but here's the funny part about that. For you and I, like when you get to that trailhead, that you were the only guy at 20 years ago.
I never had that experience.
Let's just pretend.
Okay.
So you were there and you were the only guy there 20 years ago. And this year when you go, there's 10 trucks.
Okay.
And you're like, son of B, like this stinks. There's 10 trucks here. I remember there's only one truck here. I want there to be just one truck here and it's me. So your experience it's worse for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell me about the 10 guys who were there, who weren't there before. What's their experience like compared to yours? Do they think it's worse?
Let me play you another clip. Answering. This is answering. Okay, go ahead. If you got more to say, go ahead. But I want to give my answer to that using somebody else's words.
All right.
I just wonder what
this guy's not here to defend himself. I'm gonna unload on this guy.
Okay.
Social media has reimagined the outdoors. It's made the busy spots busier, and it's forcing land managers to do what no land manager wants to do: place restrictions on access.
Oh, wrong clip. This is the clip.
That's a good clip.
Possible to quantify, there is absolutely a point where the marginal benefit that one additional person gains from being allowed on the trail is outweighed by the sum of the marginal detriment everyone else encounters due to a busier trail.
I think that's where we are, is there.
No, that's
that's in a lot of the country, not everywhere, but in a lot of the country, that's where we are. That's from Too Many People Are Going Outside by Wendover Productions.
Yeah. I think they're just wrong. And here's the thing, because I see it. If we're the guys, like, we don't want to share, I mean, like it or not, we don't want to share the space. Yeah.
I am Mr. Congeniality to everybody I see in the mountains.
I believe you, but you'd still rather they weren't there.
Yes.
Okay. Well, here's the problem. Like, all those people, like, this country is built on a concept. As we fight for, public lands and public hands, and we're like start cheering about all these things that, the right, you talked about, like, you want right to roam and all these things. Here's the challenge. All those things are built around the concept of this basic idea of democratization of the resource, that it belongs to everybody, that there's a public interest in it. That is contrary to this idea that, I mean, think about that. Like, yeah, wildlife belongs to everybody. It doesn't just belong to the guy who's landed on. Well, but by the way, I just prefer that everybody doesn't get to experience that. Just a small number of us.
Oh, well, I would fight. I would fight to the death for somebody's right to go into the mountains. I would fight to the death for somebody's right to post dead and dying animals on social media. I'm not trying to prevent anybody from doing anything by law. I'm just saying it's not in our best interest as a community. And I'm trying to point out that we have big fucking problems with the degradation of the resource and the experience because of over participation.
So, an interesting thing happened when I was working in watershed planning. So when I was working on impaired streams, you'd see this really interesting thing in a community of people who are trying to solve a big problem, right? Like you get around a giant table and you start working on this big problem. And what does everybody do when you say, like, we got a problem? They blame everybody. They sit across the table and they scream at some other guy, and they think about how their lifestyle's fine, what they're doing is okay, and like they're, and like you never solve these problems with people who don't have ownership of the problem and the resource. The only way you solve it, the best way to solve, you think we have overcrowding issues, you think we have habitat issues, you think we have trail shed sharings. Like, the only way to solve those problems is to have everybody feel like they have ownership in it. And then they sit on the same side of the table with each other, and they set the problem in front of them, and they all own it. And they say, yeah, now we could work on this. This issue is the same. If we want to solve an issue like this, which is overcrowding in the outdoors and degradation of certain trailheads and spreading people out in places they're not right now, and maybe making sure that our wildlife resources is that everybody who wants a chance, that it's not just one dude getting all the chances, but there's democratization. People have to have ownership in it, or they quit caring about it.
Right. I agree with that. But
that's actually exactly what happened with the public lands issue that we just saw go through Congress. And some of the people that maybe are responsible for crowding at trailheads were some of the most important voices in beating back that effort to sell public lands.
I see that. I see that, but those same people are the same people that have made millions and millions of acres of private land be off the table. There's Infinite Outdoors, they operate in your state.
I don't.
They're a private land lease company that now controls 1 million acres.
A lot
of it, they don't own it.
They're just there's definitely an effort to spread this hunt leasing.
Yeah,
right?
And then
that we're talking about.
And not
just hunt leasing. They
approach landowners and go, "Hey, Mr. Landowner, would you? We will orchestrate hunting on your place and give you in exchange for part of the profit." Infinite Outdoors specializes in landlocked chunks, trying to get access to their clients to landlocked chunks. Then you have Land Trust is another one of these companies. They control 1 million acres. And then there's 3 or 4 other of these companies, and then just leasing in general. I don't think we have a Land Trust. I don't think we have an Infinite Outdoors without hunting media. Mark Drury wouldn't control 30,000 acres of prime farm ground that probably has more wildlife on it than any 3 million acres that would have potentially been sold off. If it wasn't for hunting media. Hunting media paid for that. Lee and Tiffany Lukoski, they lease a couple ranches in Montana. Yep. One of them is a huge ranch that used to be in block management. That would still be in block management if it wasn't for hunting media. Hunting media has created an intense market for exclusive access to hunting land. And
so I agree
so,
with you that the market
like this,
exists.
let me just
I
finish this
disagree that
point
it's
real
hunting
quick.
media's fault.
Here's who you'd have the hardest time getting to sit at this table and come together around these issues is hunting celebrities, because nobody hates crowding as much as them. They hate it so bad that they spend $20,000 to $50,000 a year to keep everybody away from them when they hunt.
To be able to go someplace exclusive.
Yeah. So your boy Joe Rogan, your boy Cam Haines.
I don't know Joe Rogan. I wish I knew Joe Rogan, but I don't.
You can't act like they want to share the resource. No, they pay huge sums of money to sequester the resource away from everybody else for themselves. These people are not public land champions. A lot of the land they hunt is landlocked BLM and Forest Service land. They pay huge sums of money to be the only one on that property. These people are not our friends. They are selfish.
I disagree.
You want to hear somebody bitch about crowding?
Them.
With my brother Steve. Okay?
Yeah, but the funny thing is, like,
the last year that we hunted together was long after he started his media enterprise, and it was one of the last straws for me. 3 times in 1 year, he bitched about all the people. I'm like, dude, you should be going up to them and giving them a fucking t-shirt. They're here because this is what you're creating.
Yeah, I think you're given again. You know,
so don't act like these guys love share the resources.
Happens,
they use all kinds of money to make sure they don't have to share the resource.
How many hunters do we have today? How many did we have in 1980? And so here's the thing that why I keep coming back to that. Because I agree with you. I think that there are going to be and you know this, they're going to be the outliers. They're going to be things that we can point to and be like, I see this thing and it's very evident to me. So everything must be that way. And I don't believe that it's viable to, I don't think the statistics as far as harvest numbers, as far as, participation in hunting that they bear out that way, that says like we can blame Joe Rogan for crowding at trailheads. And again, it's because there is naturally this growth. And I think it's kind of like, it's like carbon dioxide and you driving your car. Is there more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because you drive your car? You bet there is. Are you going to be able to quantify it? You can't, because there's just going to be more anyway, because everybody does it, because everybody's driving their car. And so I just don't think you can't blame them for it. And you can't say that if we did away with hunting media, we would do away with overcrowding. We wouldn't.
To argue that is to argue advertising doesn't work in the hunting space. And I'm open to that, but it's very bizarre argument to me that in every other area of human domain, advertising works, but not with hunting.
So you're advertising people. If you are running a company and you are doing advertising, companies don't make what they want and then tell you what to buy through advertising. Companies make what you want and then they advertise what you asked for. That's how it works.
No, it's not necessarily how it works. You know what happened to the sale of aviator sunglasses after Top Gun came out, or what happened to bow sales after the Hunger Games? It's not that way necessarily. Oftentimes that the advertising creates the demand for something that didn't exist prior.
I think the American Archery Association would very much like to figure out, like, I think that they're, if you were to tell them like Hunger Games came out and you guys just, congratulations on your marketing, you made a ton of money. Now you're like, it's just, these things they're small factors in it. And so again, like, I think hunting media, like, you can't, if there hasn't been this growth in hunting, like, I just think it's unfair. Like, if hunting were just crushing it and growing, again, we're not even at 1980 levels yet. So like, Are they really crushing it, or are they just?
I
It's just
believe like
interesting. I just don't think
anything
they're-
else, like I think hunters like hunting is the same as with wildlife populations, that there's a demand supply thing. And right now what we have is like the supply has dwindled dramatically since the 80s. There's way less land open to hunting because of leasing and urban development. And what hunting media has done is there's way less supply, but our hunting media has created a artificial demand for I mean, I just know a lot of people
I started talking
that
about
got
this.
into hunting because of hunting media. I've had people on my podcast that have leased land because of hunting media.
A lot of people got into mountain
I know
biking
of people
because of
that
media,
have.
and a lot of people are skiing. So it's this is actually a fact that I think you'll find interesting. OIA, I started to talk about this. They did a study, and here's what you see in those numbers of outdoor participants.
Mhm.
This is across the board since the social media time, about 2010. When what you've seen is there's been huge increases in the number of people getting outside and doing all sorts of activities: rock climbing, mountain biking, skiing, all this stuff. You know what, though? What they found out is you had more people doing it, but you had less hardcore across the board.
Yeah. They're just less vehement
Everybody's
about
doing
it. Yeah.
more stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Why? Because they're seeing it more. Because the information age, they're seeing it. So I think, you're seeing people dabbling, like where they used to be like, I was just a climber. That's what I did. I climb. Well, I don't just do that anymore. I climb and I race motocross. And my motocross guy that I follow on Instagram, he also skydives. So I went skydiving, and you went skydiving once. But you tell everybody you're a skydiver, and like that phenomenon is real. The experiential economy is real. And when you look at millennials, especially post and Gen Z, you find that they care a lot more about experiences than they do about stuff. They don't buy a house anymore. They don't, spend as much money buying stuff for their house. Instead, they spend their money on wanting to go and like you said, they do. They want to go do something and take an Instagram picture. That's what they value, like being part of all this stuff. But they're just not that hardcore about it. So that's across the board. It's not just in hunting. And so I think it probably is a problem with hunting. I think that we probably have guys in the hunting space who get super jazzed about elk hunting for 3 years, right?
Oh, I hope that's all it is.
But I hope they stay. And if it's the best thing, if hunting it makes people's lives better, we want them to be participants in it, but we don't want them to screw it up. And the problem is whenever you get these new people who haven't, like, they don't have, like, you're hardcore and you know the rules and you have an idea about how it should be, and you should be a mentor to these people. And again,
I take a lot of new people hunting.
That's why I keep coming back to this same thing. People are going to be in our space. They're going to be here. We can't keep them out. It's not going to happen. That's not how the world works anymore. The best thing that we can possibly do is provide a roadmap and mentorship. No, you don't have to give them your spot. But at the same time, if you talk with them about why they shouldn't burn a spot rather than letting them discover all this stuff on their own,
I don't see the distinction. So your spot burning is a thing, but there's also a term. My new noun is activity burning.
See,
so
that's just, again, it's going to happen.
They both, spot burning increases crowding, puts pressure on the resource. Activity burning makes it harder to draw a tag. Spot burning doesn't do that.
Yeah, but
activity burning makes it harder to get a tag. Activity burning puts pressure on the resource. Activity burning makes people lease up all the land. So I just don't see the distinction. Like, if anything, activity burning is worse, drawing attention to an activity that is already suffering from too much participation.
Again, the people who are going to say it's suffering from too much participation are the guys participating today. And the challenge is you have more people. Those people have why shouldn't those people, like, I always say this all
I'm
the
not.
time.
I would
Kid in
fight for their
Chicago-
right. I would fight for their right to engage in the activity. I'm just
give-
saying,
You
why
give
would
that
we?
kid in Chicago your
Why would we? Why would we direct people towards it through media? It's just asinine to me. I
because
guess. How many? Okay,
I guess it depends
Nephi,
on what kind of person you
how many
are.
boats do you wish were at that? How many boats do you wish were at that boat ramp? 1,000 were there.
I don't
How
know
many-
the boat ramp,
What's that?
but I don't know the boat ramp. But here's what I can. I
Okay,
can
so
tell you
how
definitively
many
is-
how many people do you wish hunted? That's one of the questions I wanted to ask you early on, and I didn't.
I actually think, I wish that everybody that everyone who it spoke to on some level, when they see that, they're like, you know what? I need to know about that. I wish all of them would have the chance.
How much more hunting media do you wish there was?
That's a tough question. Can't say as I know. Again, I think I don't, to tell you the truth, man, I don't watch hunting media. Like,
what if I told?
I mean, I really don't watch any of it. Like, you talk about
No, yeah,
like,
but I'm just
I
saying
think
as a
your brother
force
is a
to
phenomenal dude, and I don't watch Meat Eater.
Okay, right. I'm just saying as a force towards opening people's eyes to this thing they've been missing out on, i.e., hunting. It seems like
I
if
wish
that's
that I could make every politician watch a whole season of something worthwhile. I wish that I could make anybody that's like in the world that's seeking something, like, I want them to be able to find truth. I want them to be able to find enlightenment. I want them to be able to find, and that's the challenge, I think. You know, we talked about all this stuff out there. You talked about non-hunting, and here's the problem. I want people to be able to find the truth. I want people to be able to find advocates who are good advocates, who are willing to share truth, knowledge, light, positive things. And so we don't have a choice about whether there's going to be information out there. What we have to do is look for somebody who can be the light. Look for somebody who can, light the candle and carry the torch for us, and find somebody who we're okay with doing that, because we don't get to live in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So I would really like us to find, I think that's the thing for me. I mean, like, I think if we can have, I don't know, there's not a number. Like, I can't say that there's a number, but I want them to be enough so that
That's when I struggle with R3 and hunting promotions. Like, any serious agenda, typically there's a target value, a target number. Like, here I am. I'm a guy that I don't work in this field. I don't derive any income from this, but I can very cleanly state how many hunters I wish there were. Very cleanly. However many there would be if you couldn't put dead and dying.
Yeah, but that's not
animals.
a number. Just like my number is, how many people don't hunting? Everybody who makes their life better.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
Every one of those persons
I'll say this.
That's gonna be a better person because they know this thing. That's how many I want hunting.
Okay. So
I'm not gonna win, man. I'm not gonna. They ain't
right.
coming.
You're right. You're right. I should come up with a number. No, it's fair. At least I could say operationally what I would do. I just think the hunting would be better if
I could do, that show that I watched a long time ago. Like, if I could do like the Stars show where you like teach everybody like how cool hunters are. If I could make 400 million people in this country watch a documentary about how hunters but what we do for conservation and like with our money to, and how
it's
we
so
really
little.
are.
It's so little.
Yeah.
There was a 2015 study that showed that this is the only study of its kind that hunters only pay for about 6% of conservation in the U.S. 6%.
I think that's true.
Show me your study.
$1 billion a year that the firearms industry pays into conservation.
But the majority of those is not hunters. Majority of that is not hunters.
No, you're right. It's 80% of them are sport shooters who don't even know that they're contributing.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
But they're buying stuff. But
your video that you're going to show 400 million people is not going to be very persuasive, because what it's going to show is that only about 6% of conservation is paid for by hunters.
Yeah, it's $1 billion a year.
I'd say
plus
whatever that 6%, we'd be better off doing away with it and not pressuring wildlife populations so much.
So you would do away with Pittman Robertson. You're great with it.
No.
Because that's what it is.
No, what I'm saying is this idea that we fund conservation is vastly overstated, and we say it all the time, but we never talk about the peer-reviewed evidence that intense hunting pressure is bad for wildlife.
Because intense hunting pressure is bad for wildlife in very specific cases, specific areas. But here's the thing, when you talk about that money, and it's $1 billion a year that comes from users of firearms, optics, ammunition, certain motorboat fuels, certain archery tackle, you got to double that. And the reason that you double it is because that's how Pittman Robertson, it's really interesting, right? Pittman Robertson is matched.
It's
right?
not,
it has to be matched by the.
It's not
it's matched
double.
By
it's
$100.
It's 25%.
It's 20. What are you saying? 25%.
The matches by the state is 25%. You're not doubling it. It's 25%. It's a 25% match by the state. And except for the exception is shooting ranges. There, the state pays 10%.
Yeah, it's a 9-to-1 cost share,
and it's a 75-25 cost share with PR dollars and with Dingle Johnson dollars. But anyway, yeah, there's more
75%. You're saying 75% from.
Well, how much?
You're right. Let's clarify that. The match is every dollar of state or $25 of state money can leverage $75 of PR money.
No, $3. Every dollar leverages $3, not $75.
Of federal money.
Yeah.
But if you look at the money, so what you're false picture, because states spend more money that comes in from PR. I like to use 50% because it makes it sound good for PR. But states spend more money than is required. States spend the amount that hunters buy in license fees, and then states provide, some states through taxes and other means, is larger than the Pittman Robertson contribution. So it's not just, so that's what I'm saying. When I say it's $1 billion, it's more than $1 billion. It's more than $2 billion. And that is directly a result of people caring about hunting and fishing. Now, compare that to something like, Farm Bill.
I don't buy the premise. Nephi, I just don't buy the premise. I don't think we can just say.
But here's the thing: it's more that you just used $1 billion in Pittman Robertson. That's more than every conservation group combined.
Okay, but the point I was trying to make, I thought we were discussing collectively, was what percent of our wildlife and conservation is paid for by hunters. And as near as I can tell, there's one study on it, and it said 6%. That's the only thing I'm saying.
I do know that,
I'm open to that number being wrong, but somebody would have to show me where it is. And even the Pittman Robinson dollars, like 20% of that goes right off the top to hunter safety. A huge chunk of that goes to R3. I mean, R3 and hunter safety, like them or not, it's not conservation.
So what do you like? Again, conservation would be a conservation easement. That's what you want to see, $1 for dollar.
No. I would say doing an invasive species removal would be conservation. Planting hedge habitat.
This drives me nuts. Here's why this burns me a little bit. Because here's the thing. It's very difficult to quantify how far that $1 billion goes, but it's worth way more than $1 billion. Way more. And here's why. Because let's just imagine that you could wave a magic wand.
I am all for the $1 billion. I'm just saying it's not
I'm
being
just saying,
provided by hunters.
If you got rid of that, if you took away,
Which I would hate.
If you took away the voice, let's just say the voice, and then this I think this gets down fundamentally to my concern with the argument. If you take away the voice of hunters, and part of that,
I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to take away the voice of hunters. I'm not advocating for that.
In Montana or Wyoming or any other Western state where you're trying to pass a bill, where you're trying to protect wildlife habitat, or you're trying to sell a landowner on creating access, that agency is critically important to that effort. If you don't have those agencies, if we as hunters don't have good agencies, game and fish agencies, we're screwed.
Oh, I have nothing but warm feelings in my heart for Michigan
are the guys that are
DNR
back.
And Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Those are the two states I've lived in, and I'm huge supporters of those.
When you put a single dollar into that agency, like we can't even begin to quantify when that dollar turns over the monetary benefit that we got from that $1 billion.
Yeah,
agreed. But that $1 billion, like we're just saying, like again. The North American model, like none of what we have, none of it exists without that investment. And no one cares about, I mean, yes, hunters may not, you're saying they don't know that they're doing it, but I guarantee you that Federal Premium Ammunition knows they're writing the check.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure they do.
They are the largest single payer of Pittman Robertson in the United States of America. It's over $80 million a year just from that company.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that level, again, in order to get that, in order to protect that, it requires that we have individuals participating. And that company and all that the nasty capitalism that any company does and the people that work for them, that's all part of this ugly relationship that we have to have if we want to preserve these things that we care about. And that's what's challenging. Again, these things aren't going to go away. The ugliness isn't going to go away. What we have to do is steer it, because those people who are writing those big checks, they're going to listen to you, Matt Ranella, the consumer, and they're going to look to find somebody that you care about that they can then support as a voice for their company. And so it's super dirty. It's like, I'm not saying that this is, we're, Boy Scouts here, but at the same time, like that's the challenge of the argument, is just saying like, okay, the world is not pretty. It's an ugly place. We live in it. Now, how am I, like, we're in this chess match. Which pieces am I going to use? How are we going to do this? And that's why, like, fundamentally, I think it's just a challenging issue. So when we got together and talked, I think that for me is the challenge. Is like, I think ultimately, I know what you're about. I know what you're about is just saying, hey, look, I think if we just could somehow tune out the noise and decrease the numbers, that the experience is going to be better for those of us that are here. And for me, I step back as a guy who built an office of outdoor recreation and a program in Wyoming, and I say, man, it's coming from everywhere. We're in a battle. We'd better sharpen some knives. And that's the way that I look at it. It's like, we got to be prepared. And as hunters, if we care about this, we better have tools in our toolbox. And those tools include all those things that we might not like some of. So we better find the ones that we do.
Yeah. We just have a different perspective about what we're getting the knives out for. I think we just have a little different view on what the enemy is.
And I think the cool thing is, I think here's where we have agreement. I'm sure is like, what we really want is, here's what I want. I want to make sure that when my 15-year-old has a 15-year-old, I want hunting. I want him to be able to, have a backpack and own a firearm and go chase an elk somewhere.
Yeah. I want that. I want that for your son as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, and my experience, his experience might not look exactly like my experience. I don't expect it to. My grandfather's experience, was different than mine is. But I think that's the challenge for us is figuring out, this is
It's
what I
probably
really
going to be stroking a check to land trust. It's probably what it's going to be.
well,
and I just thought I'd take a few years and make a point and take a stance for publicly accessible, high quality, non-pay hunting. But
I think that's great. It's not about
it's like an
influencers.
outdated mode of hunting. It's definitely becoming a, get your backpack and your rifle and your checkbook and
I don't know. I think that that's it. It's challenging, but again, if you want to do something about it, you mentioned some of these social media influencers. You said like, oh no, these guys aren't really, our advocates. Well, they were our advocates 2 months ago. And here's what I'd say is like those guys, like there's spots that I'm going to be able to hunt that they're never going to touch. Joe Rogan's never going to the same place. Like he's never going to touch.
Joe Rogan wasn't public about any of this.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just using that as an example. Cam Hayes, but I think for me, the I can recognize the value that those people bring to my argument and the things that I think are important while still, maintaining my reservations about, aspects of, what they do.
Oh,
and that's
so
okay.
You're getting to me there because this goes back to what you were saying earlier about how funding could be a little bit dirty. It could be because it's big company and all that, but you got to be more pragmatic about it. Like it's hard for me because I'm so idealistic to go like Cam Haynes is a fucking douche, and he took 5 minutes off.
I don't know, but neither do you. You guys probably have.
He took five. He took 5 minutes off. But what I'm trying to do right here is say that I agree with you. He took 5 minutes off of promoting himself and his products to move his lips and make noises that had something positive to say about protecting public lands. But it's freaking powerful. It's just comical to me that it cost him nothing. And it was so easy, but it was impactful. Sure. I agree.
I'll tell you what's really interesting here for you with you, Matt. And I'll make this highly personal now. You ready? Is like, my friend Dave and I talk about this quite a bit. And as you know, like we do a podcast called Your Mountain.
Oh, 5,000 listens per episode is pretty damn good, I'd say.
And
mine doesn't get nearly that many.
We don't monetize it because we're not smart enough to figure out how to do any of that type of stuff. But when we talk about why we do it, here's what we do know. There are people in offices that make decisions and they listen to our podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's power.
And there are influencers who are, some of the people like you may not like, and like who guess what they listen to? They listen to that janky podcast.
Yeah.
And what individuals need to realize, and it's for you too, and maybe especially for you, there are people in your orbit. If we want the influencer, the Cam Haynes of the world, if we want them to make the right decisions, we have to have a relationship with those people too. Where when we say, hey man, this is a problem, they go, you know what? I trust that guy. I'm going to that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And they respond. And that's what I mean by like we can't just make everyone, and we need to encourage and create those relationships and build them. And when you get a chance, Matt, you leverage it.
Yeah.
You leverage it right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. It's just with these people that we're talking about, it's like going, sometimes you just got to get Hitler's ear, and have a little kumbaya with Stalin and, try to find a way to, because when I look at what they do is so terrible spiritually terrible, ethically terrible, and just pragmatically terrible.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, I understand what you're saying, but like first of all, how do we quantify it? And then second of all, like somebody's life, like, and I don't know this, like, right. But like, yeah, I'm going to guess that there's some people whose lives are way better because of Cameron Haynes.
Oh, I'm sure they're more fit or whatever.
Yeah, they probably care about things that we care about that they wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
So I just think it's, and that's where it's messy. That's when I say it's messy. That's what's
messy
because we can't just, paint with a broad brush on all of these issues. And what we can do is you can identify, and I think that that's a challenge for all of us, is to get around the table and put the problem in between and, get everybody on the same side of the table, say like, we have a problem. Let's identify a few principles that would make this a little more fair. Okay, the resources being overused. How can we make sure that it's democratized, that everybody who should have a chance gets a chance in a fair way? How do we make sure that, there's ethics, that we share that, we think that there's an ethic in how we should present the community. How do we get people around the table and say like, okay, everybody, learn the ethic, expectation. You're going to be our voice. You're going to be the voice for a company. Here's the right way to do it. And then the leadership at those companies are hearing like, hey, you know what? There's an ethic out there that I'm not going to pick a guy. There's not going to be a guy wearing my boots that everybody looks at and thinks is a tool. And that's not an easy fix. I can't do it, but we can all do it. And I think that that's like the Pollyanna in me is saying, it's not going to be easy, but that's the commitment we have to make. We're not going to fix everything, but we can bring attention to, like, we can leverage the system. And that's what we should be doing as much as we can. Are we going to get it right every time? No, we're not, but it's coming for us. We can either lay down in the tracks, get run over, or we can grab it.
And when you say that you mean like the fight in your mind,
outdoor space
is like keeping public lands in public hands. Is that
absolutely
okay?
Having a voice in the politics, because that is not going to go away. We are going to this highly politicized world that we live in, where what we've seen is all these issues too is like people let them become politicized, and suddenly these important issues like public lands and public hands, like, just think about how dangerous that was, the idea that we could let it get tied to a political party, and suddenly the next guy that's in office, we talked about, when we started, like, well, things like waters of the US and all these environmental policies that you just can't have them whipsaw back and forth. That's the real challenge for us, is finding advocates who, again, this is kind of what brought me to, when I was working for Matt Mead, getting to know your brothers. Like, you had a guy now who could reach across to left of center and drag him over. And like, we need more of that. We need more, you talked about, you're right. If there's an influencer that just wants to give the middle finger to half of America, that's probably not our voice. But if we've got somebody who's good, who cares more about the issue than about the politics, yeah, man, that's the kind of guys we need. And it'll take voices like you and like me, I hope, talking to people who make decisions and make purchases, and encourage people to, like, hey, find the right advocates, find the right people, look for the unpopular middle. That's what we need more of. And, I don't know if we're going to get there, but I know that, like, I'm content with having that be my fight.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to me. What do you do when, okay, I guess I've been wondering, I know of two groups that started up because of this proposed land sale, like Lantani's new group, American Hunters and Anglers, and then Ryan Bussey started a group, Public Land Warriors. It's just like,
hold on 1 second. I can turn my office light on. I'm sitting in the dark because the sun went down. All right, sorry, Matt.
This is I can tell I'm getting a little sleepy because this is not a well posed question, but it's like, what do they do now? It doesn't seem like okay. So you've been kind of describing this battle we're in and the knives out and all that stuff, but it's like, isn't that all over now?
No, it's never going to be over. It's going to, as long as, because it's, if we're talking about, availability, like we're talking about a limited resource, right? And so you're always going to have, you talked about it, Matt. You said like, you're worried about rich guys, buying everybody out of the hunting spaces. Well, I agree with you. Like we have to make sure that, there's these opportunities do stay available for everybody, that there's democratization in it. And that's part of that. It's like, that's a power to numbers argument. That's the power in numbers thing. And if we, in order to do that, I think the biggest danger that I see to things like that, and that's not the only one. I think there are other issues, but I think the biggest danger to me is I believe that some of those groups that, when you see who did the work on this, I can tell you, I know the guys who
did the work on the land sale.
National Wildlife Federation was hugely impactful. You saw people like Randy Newberg just sharing, like just really working hard to, and in this case, it might not be it might not be the story every time, but with certainty, if it weren't for hunters, federal lands would be for sale right now.
Yeah, it's too late in the conversation to get in a disagreement.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to say I don't agree. But
that's fine. You can believe that. Like
I will say this: you may be correct.
But
I'll say this: you may be correct.
Yeah, and I'd say for people, be very cautious of any group that tells you, and just reject it. Any group that tells you that the way to solve these issues is to vote for a political party.
Oh, okay.
You hear somebody saying like, oh yeah, we're going to solve this by telling all of you to vote with this letter next, or for everybody with this letter to the next to their name. Ignore that guy. That guy's a hack.
Okay.
Because the outdoors don't belong to a political party. They don't belong to one guy. And if you think that one party, like, again, is political economy, if you let 50%, if you make 50% of the country an enemy of hunting or an enemy of whatever your interest is, like, you're going to lose.
I would say that if you're going to vote for a party, just on average, you're going to do better as a hunter voting for the left. I mean, there's just no question about that in my mind.
Say voting for the left?
Yeah, who just tried to sell off the federal lands? Which is the party that's more prone to do environmental deregulation? What?
Yeah,
I'm insane. You're the one that's devoted much of this podcast to talking about a proposal that you said that you were terrified about that was forwarded by somebody on the right. Matt, how am I insane?
Who is the most influential person in stopping it?
Your big issue.
Just give me one guy.
Your big issue. This whole podcast. Your big issue is federal land sales.
Who was the person that put their foot down?
You didn't have to put your foot down.
You wouldn't have to put
his foot down if his colleague hadn't brought it up.
Put some salt on it. It's not bad. You can eat it. Who did it?
Nephi. He wouldn't have had to put his foot down.
It was Ryan Zinke.
Yeah, Ryan Zinke wouldn't have to do shit.
You're from Montana. I'm going to give you a big clap.
If your boy Mike Lee hadn't have brought it up, Ryan Zinke wouldn't have had to do anything.
You're making this sound like you're not, like, we don't have time.
7 or 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, when there was this big push to sell off federal lands, who was that? It was another politician on the right. It's the right that tries to sell off federal lands. Nephi, you can't argue that it's the left that tries. The right. It's the right.
An individual.
It's always people on they're always on the right.
And who are the people that always try and take away
Ted
your guns?
Cruz. You know what Ted Cruz? You know what Ted Cruz?
Who's the person that tries to take away your right to hunt every time? Which party are they in? Which party? What Republican has ever brought a bill to try and eliminate hunting
In
of
my
any-
state,
Tell me who the guy is.
in my state, it's
Tell me who the guy is.
categorically better to vote for people on the left if you
You're
care
just-
about hunting.
You're just not right.
I'm totally right.
No, because you're making a false choice. This is a big problem, and this is exactly what those groups do. This is exactly what the problem is. If you tell somebody that you have to choose between cooking your breakfast and having a clean kitchen,
Nobody on the left is trying to sell off the land.
if you
Can
tell
we
somebody that you have
I
to
will
choose
I will
between
argue I will
environment,
agree with you that the
firearms,
left
it's
is I will agree with
Yeah.
the left. So to
you
me
can't-
it's this clear.
you need to
People on
stop.
the left are
with-
softer on
You need to
guns.
stop with trying to push everybody into this political box of saying the left and the right.
I'm not
As a
pushing
hunter-
anybody. I'm
As
just
a hunter,
I'm,
you should never tell somebody to vote for a party because that party is better for your interest. What you should tell people is whoever your representative is, demand that they care about your issue. So the issue is if you say, well, I care about, Sasquatch, and I know that only the libertarians are the only ones that care about Sasquatch, so therefore I have to vote libertarian. No, Matt, that's not how it works. What you do is you find the politician that represents you, and you say, and this is exactly what happened with the federal lands. You say,
and if
this
what
is important
affects
to
me is gun rights, it's going to be somebody on
That's
the right
why-
that's benefiting me.
That's why Ryan Zinke was the most important person in that entire argument. Why? Because Ryan Zinke heard from constituents like you that said, I don't care what political party you're in. This is important to me in Montana. That is what made the difference.
You tell me
that is what hunters have
All
to
right.
do on every issue.
Nephi,
You
you
have
gotta
to
give me
ignore
one
the party.
chance. You got to give me one chance. If you tell me a politician is trying to take away my gun rights, I will tell you what party they belong to. If you tell me that a politician is trying to sell off federal lands, I will tell you what party they belong to.
Would you
And
like
there
to
are
know
no
how many
exceptions.
proposals? Would you like to know how many proposals for land transfer have occurred that have been sponsored by a representative from the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
Oh, let's look it up. I have to put
Yeah.
this on.
Let me
I'm just
pause.
kidding. It just
Okay.
exists, Matt. It does. It exists. And so the problem is you're looking at this is another issue. This is the next podcast when we talk about all these issues. Because the reality is,
if you told me that a politician was fighting to deregulate, to remove environmental regulations,
you'd guess.
You'd guess it's somebody on the right, typically.
Well, here's the problem.
I mean,
And,
you're Matt Mead, it sounds like, is an exception.
The issue is that there are exceptions everywhere.
Okay.
And here's the problem with making it political. When you do what you just did,
You're the one that brought up politics.
when you do what you just did and you make it about a political party, you automatically alienate 50%. Because if you make it
I just state what's true. I don't care about the consequences. I just state what's true.
You can say that you believe it majority is this way and the majority that way.
I've never heard a person on the right go, we need to get rid of guns.
Hey,
I've never heard a
like it
person
or
on the
not,
left say,
and
we got to get rid of federal lands.
Like this or not, and I didn't want to bring this up, but the people that stopped the sale were all Republicans.
Yeah, I agree. But
they're the ones that stopped
They
it.
stopped their colleagues. They stopped their Republican colleagues.
So, if you want to pat people on the back, pat them on the back, Matt. Give them their due.
Oh, yeah.
Because here's the reality.
I'm apolitical. I'm apolitical. I'm just pointing out the reality.
It wasn't hard for anybody with a D to take that vote. None of them. There was no political courage for a single one of them. The only people that showed political courage were the peoples with an R next to it. And that happens on other issues too. But that's why you just can't get sucked in to this stupid idea of vote this way, vote that guy. Because the political
I don't back any political pain.
Political courage is in the middle. The political courage is the Matt Mead. The political courage is the guy who rejects the idea that I have to buy into the groupthink of either side, and instead, I will pursue the right thing.
I think we spent the last 15 minutes talking past each other because I agree with what you're
out if you want.
I agree with what you're saying, that you got to look at the
Trying
issue.
to get me in trouble by having me say like political stuff that I'm not.
No.
Because here's the thing.
What your point is, let me just paraphrase. You're saying you got to look at the issue and see who's on your side and vote for that person regardless of party. And I agree wholeheartedly.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And I'm just saying that there's some generalities that tend to obtain.
Yeah, you gotta. What I'm saying is, don't get sucked into the generalities. Don't let anybody sell you a bill of goods because of a generality.
Okay, I'll buy that. No, if there's some Democrat that came out and said, when I get elected to your senator of Montana, I'm going to sell all the federal land. I'm going to vote for the dude on the right.
Yeah, that's good.
And
it is, man.
It's hard to imagine that's going to happen.
But you know what drives me nuts? What drives me nuts is you have people like who are trying to get somebody's running for office in Montana, and there's nothing that they'd rather do than just crap on everybody who's not in the same political party as them.
That's what they all do.
That's
what they all do.
Yeah,
on the right and left.
Like
you don't agree?
No, I don't. I mean, like some do, but again, that's one.
Name one that doesn't. Name one that doesn't.
It's too late in the day. You want me to start naming state legislators from all the states I work in?
No,
that's not a good idea.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm
going to leave people off the list, but I will tell you, I've seen a change from when I worked for Matt, where the country has gotten more polarized, but that's not a good thing.
No, it's not.
But we feed it. You feed it by letting that guy on social media scream at everybody with a R next to their name or with a D next to their name, and that whole party's this and that whole party's that. It's just not true. And if we do it, we feed the beast. Because again, there's nothing that like if you people are going to try and if you demonize Republicans, who are the guys especially the ones who had the courage to vote against something like that. Well, what's their natural inclination going to be? Next time, man, that hurt. I took this vote and it was a hard vote. And I got my butt kicked by a bunch of people and they were mad at me. And members of my own party are don't want to be my friends anymore. And if everybody's just going to jump on me anyway, and then well, then next time, hey, they don't vote the right way.
Yeah.
Because they're humans. So again, that's why I just hate it. I hate.
I'm all for political tolerance. I just wish that I had done a better job in that segment, because I was just trying to make a point about general tendencies of where the parties tend to, what they tend to do and think. But your grander point is right on. It's just, I'm a single issue voter when it comes to politics in my state. It's which candidate, I don't care what frickin' party they're in, is going to be best for my hunting and fishing.
I'll tell you what, Montana, Matt, if you want to do something for Montana, here's what you need to do.
Besides start a access nonprofit that I spend 15 called Hunters for Access that I spend 15 hours a week on, and do this podcast. You want me to do more? Nobody's doing more. I want you to
figure out.
Nobody's doing more for what they care about for free than me.
Yeah. Go. I want you to find the Speaker of the House. Go to dinner with him.
Would you want me to do this before I do 3 work projects to try to open up more public access, or after?
Here's the I'll leave it on the I just want to share an experience with you. I've worked politics in a lot of states, and Montana I have found to be on hunters issues for it to be extremely divisive.
Yeah, for sure.
And I will tell you, one of the guys who you mentioned is responsible largely for the division.
Who's that?
Man, I'm not gonna call him out on here.
Okay.
But the problem is when you have people who are like, I represent the hunting community, and then they walk into a Capitol building and proceed to pound everybody with an R next to their name and talk bad about them and just like absolutely. And in Montana, like it was really interesting a few years ago because it wasn't all one party, was it? You had a Democratic governor, and that allows people to do something really negative politically. It allows people to walk into a legislature and burn everyone with the right letter next to their name, and then hope that the governor was going to have their back with a veto pen and just make everybody mad at each other. And I truly believe that embracing that ugly politics, that yelling at people and calling them stupid and calling them names and everything, I think that did more bad things for Montana, in my opinion, for hunters in Montana than anything else somebody could have done. Because now you have a party switch, and now you're trying to find advocates. You're trying to find people who listen to you. And when you have a group, I mean, you've seen this happen with other political groups where they get high on their own power. They think they're so great that they can go in and just, again, talk ugly to people. And then they're going to just be able to power their way through by flexing. Like sooner or later, the political winds shift. And then every issue that group thinks is important, it is exponentially harder to get something good done on that issue because you have successfully alienated everyone who doesn't have the right political resume.
Yeah, I think,
and in Montana,
I just think all that's
it's worse
rampant
than
on the left.
It's worse than in any
and
other.
I think it's rampant on the left and the right.
Yeah. It's something to be very careful of because you get lasting stuff done by being willing to sit on the same side of the table and work on the issues, not by, again, all that other stuff is just it's literally just politics.
I'm very pessimistic about politics in general. I don't engage in the political process beyond casting my vote.
Well, Matt, it's you make a difference with it's the cup of coffee that makes the difference.
I think if I have any chance of making a difference, it's going to be this podcast and my nonprofit. If I didn't do this, I guess the other choice would be to engage in the political process. But I just think it's so ridiculously broken that I just don't feel.
You can't give up on it, man, because it's,
I already have. I gave up on it years ago.
You just can't. You can't give up on it. And I never, as a guy like, maybe finishing up, and it's been a fun conversation. It's really good.
It has been. And I
never planned.
You're a person that I really believes what they say they believe, and that's not true of everyone. I legitimately think that everything you say you believe. So,
well, you're not wrong.
I have a lot of respect.
You got to have integrity.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm going to be wrong sometimes. And when I find out that I am, I'm going to work really hard to,
hide it.
Find it, eat a little bit of crow. And like I was saying, you're a scientist. And we talked about the beginning, I'm a scientist, man. I try and understand, I try and present truth. And when I find out that my hypothesis was wrong, I'm going to then, I'm going to find the new truth and claim that I knew it all along. And but I mean, that's what we should all be doing, right? We should be trying to make ourselves better every day. And again, like we got to do what we think is right. We got to be advocates for good. I mean, I truly believe, this too. I'm a religious guy, and I just believe that I believe that the good guys win.
Mm-hmm.
They don't win by being bad guys. They don't win by, they win by, we win by winning hearts and minds, because ultimately I truly believe that people can tell, people know right and wrong, and people can tell, they can feel it. And if you reach enough people, you're going to move them. It's never going to be easy. but you have to be willing to try. And if you're not willing to try, maybe you don't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you taking the time, and
Matt, it was my pleasure.
I really appreciate you challenging me on some things, and it was it wasn't all your pleasure. I enjoyed it very much. So
No,
thanks.
it was a lot of fun, and thank you for taking the time to do this. I know that you believe very strongly too, and I know you're a big advocate. And if there's one thing I could there's zero doubt about that. And I appreciate your passion for the issue. Sometimes, you may think in that way, man, I wish I wish that he would, with that sharp knife, I wish he'd stab a few less people. But at the same time, I appreciate your battle.
It's just that I feel like I have such a tiny platform that it doesn't matter what I say,
Yeah, well, I think it's it doesn't matter how many people you reach. It's reaching the right people. That's what's important.
I think for me, more than trying to reach people, or I thought maybe I'd change things for the better, but more than anything, I'm just trying to protect my sanity by having an outlet for saying what I think, even if very few people are listening.
Well,
it's sanity protection.
I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you, and I have a lot of respect for you, and it makes knowing you makes my life it makes life richer.
Oh,
so,
well, let's stay in touch.
Thank you for being being part of the journey.
All right. Well, have a good night.
You too, Matt. See ya.